Chapter 523. The three members of the Fang clan looked at Tang Zheng and Lan Yu strangely, especially Fang Chonghua, who was experienced and knowledgeable. He had seen too many powerful auras, but they could not be compared to this woman. Even though she was not overbearing and only looked at Tang Zheng with resentment, the aura emitted from her body made others not dare to approach her. They could not help but feel a sense of insignificance, as if they were ants facing an elephant. He could not help but be curious about the other party's identity. Why did she have such a strange relationship with Tang Zheng? Lan Yu looked at Tang Zheng without blinking and gently advised, "Tang Zheng, don't tell me you don't want to know about your background? Don't you want to know about your birth parents? In fact, they have always missed their son. My surname is Tang. I was raised by my grandfather. It has nothing to do with anyone else," Tang Zheng resolutely said. The pain and guilt between Lan Yu's brows became even more intense. Although she had not seen the jade pendant, from the reactions of Marshall and Tang Zheng, she was almost certain that Tang Zheng was her son. Any mother who heard such resolute words would be heartbroken. But she did not blame Tang Zheng because everything was their fault. Tang Zheng's resentment was a matter of course. The three members of the Fang clan looked at each other in shock. As long as one was not an idiot, they would be able to guess the possibilities from this conversation, especially since they knew that Tang Zheng was an orphan that Tang Dahai picked up from the trash. Could it be that this imposing woman was Tang Zheng's family, or even his birth mother? This woman's position is definitely not simple. Tang Zheng is her son, so his identity is not simple either. He is not an orphan, but the young master of a large power. Shi Mingqin's expression was somewhat awkward. The feeling of superiority she had when facing Tang Zheng had completely disappeared. Although Tang Zheng's strength was not weak, Shi Mingqin still felt a sense of superiority towards him. She believed that he was born as a poor brat and could not be compared to her precious daughter. But now, she realized that Tang Zheng's birth might be even nobler than hers. She could not help but feel all sorts of feelings welling up in her heart. Fang Chonghua didn't have such power, but he couldn't help but view Tang Zheng in a new light. On the contrary, Fang Shishir was the most innocent. She knew how hard Tang Zheng's childhood was. She couldn't imagine a childhood without the love of his parents. Therefore, at this moment, when she saw that Tang Zheng might be able to find his biological parents, her heart moved and she advised, "Tang Zheng, if there's anything you want to say, let's sit down and talk about it slowly." Fang Shishir waved her hand expressionlessly. "Shishir, don't worry about this. You guys go home first." Seeing Tang Zheng stubbornly insist, Fang Shishir helplessly sighed and left with her parents. However, Shi Mingqin turned her head back 3 times as if she wanted to imprint Lan Yu's appearance in her mind. Tang Zheng was worried that his grandfather would come back from buying groceries, so he unceremoniously asked them to leave. "You too, if you have nothing else to say, please leave. My family does not welcome you." Tang Zheng. Marshall was indignant, but before he could finish, he was stopped by his master's wife. Lan Yu forced out a lonely smile and said, "I know it is hard for you to accept this matter. I can understand your feelings. During this period of time, I will be in ordinary balance. You can come find me anytime. This is the hotel we are staying at." Lan Yu handed over a piece of paper with the name of the hotel and a phone number written on it. It was obviously her phone number. In order to send the two of them away, Tang Zheng casually took it and closed the door without hesitation. Lan Yu took a deep look at the door and helplessly shook his head. He went downstairs in a daze and coincidentally missed Tang Dahai, who had just returned from buying groceries. Standing downstairs, Lan Yu looked up at the tall building and muttered to himself, "What exactly do I have to do to dispel his anger?" Marshall said indignantly, "Mistress, you're really letting him do as he pleases. With our strength, we can easily snatch the jade pendant away." "So what if I snatch the jade pendant away? What I want is not the jade pendant, but my son." Marshall was speechless. That jade pendant was only used to confirm Tang Zheng's identity, but looking at Mistress's attitude today, it was clear that she had already recognized Tang Zheng. In the past, Marshall was only guessing, but he didn't expect Mistress to be so certain. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Mistress, maybe I was wrong. He's not your child at all." Lan Yu retracted his gaze and looked meaningfully at Wu, saying, "Wu, you are still too young. You have never had a child before, so you don't know the feeling of a mother and son's heart being connected. Although this is the first time I've met him, and we haven't even exchanged a few words, I can already feel that he is my child. There's no mistake about it." "Really?" Marshall found it hard to believe. This kind of statement was too profound. Wasn't DNA testing popular now? Just relying on the jade pendant to determine it was indeed too arbitrary. However, Lan Yu's feelings were clearly different. It was as if as a mother, she could feel other feelings that Marshall was unable to fathom. "Marshall, what do you think I should do?" Lan Yu asked. Marshall shook her head helplessly. If she had followed her thoughts and directly kidnapped Tang Jing, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. That girl just now was his girlfriend, right? Lan Yu suddenly asked. Marshall was stunned for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, her name is Fang Shishir. She is a classmate of Tang Jing and is also a lover. He seems to care a lot about her attitude." Lan Yu had an idea. "Let's go find this girl." Not long after the three of them returned home, Lan Yu knocked on the Fang family's door. When Mengqin saw the two people at the door, she couldn't help but be stunned. After a while, she asked in bewilderment, "May I know what business do the two of you have?" Lan Yu revealed a smile. This smile seemed to be able to melt the ice and snow of winter, causing people to feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. "I'm looking for Fang Shishir," Lan Yu said gently. Mengqin looked at the other party in astonishment, not knowing what the other party was up to. If it was a normal person, she would have already chased them away, but facing Lan Yu, she couldn't muster up the courage to chase her away. Like a defeated general, she helplessly welcomed the other party into the room. When Fang Chonghua and Fang Shishir saw the two of them, they couldn't hide their surprise and politely invited them to take a seat. Fang Chonghua carefully asked, "What business do the two of you have with my daughter?" "I want to ask her to advise Tang Jing." Lan Yu went straight to the point. "Advise him on what?" Fang Chonghua asked knowingly, wanting to confirm his guess. Lan Yu took a deep breath and prepared to reveal the truth. Since she was asking for help, if she didn't tell the truth, it would be more troublesome and have the opposite effect. "I am Tang Jing's birth mother. That year, after giving birth to him, due to some external factors, he was abandoned. It was only recently that I found out that he was still alive in this world, so I immediately rushed over to meet him. However, his misunderstanding of me is too deep, so I want to ask Fang Shishir to help persuade him and let us mother and son acknowledge each other." The three of them from the Fang family all stared with their eyes wide open. Even though their guess was confirmed, the three of them were still shocked. Tang Jing's true identity was actually not simple. This was something they never would have thought of. Mengqin's expression was embarrassed and somewhat unnatural. Of course, her pride and superiority didn't exist, causing her to be at a loss for what to do. Fang Shishir, on the other hand, was much simpler as she said, "Ever since I met Tang Jing, he has never mentioned his birth parents. Ever since he was young, he and his grandfather relied on each other for survival. In the past, he suffered quite a bit. When he was in school, he was bullied by his classmates and teachers. Because of this, he learned to be strong and protect his family and loved ones. He simply doesn't care about his own identity. For someone like you to suddenly barge into his life, it is indeed very difficult for you to succeed." Fang Shishir undoubtedly understood Tang Jing very well and hit the nail on the head. "I also know that this is all my fault, but the situation back then was too complicated. It can't be explained in just a few words. I don't ask for his forgiveness and only hope that we can get along like normal friends, so that he can accept me bit by bit." Lan Yu said. Fang Shishir shook her head. "This is truly very difficult. In his life, even in his heart, he has already gotten used to not having your existence. He even somewhat hates you, so how could he accept you?" The grief on Lan Yu's face became even stronger as she turned her gaze towards Mengqin and said, "This big sister, you are also a mother, so you should be able to understand my feelings. My own flesh and blood is right in front of me, yet I am unable to recognize him and am even treated as an enemy. This kind of feeling is truly worse than death. I also don't have extravagant hopes that he will immediately forgive me. I just want him to give me a chance. Seeing the high and mighty Lan Yu speaking so humbly, Shi Mengqin did not feel pleased but instead nodded in fear and trepidation. A mother and child are connected by heart. This kind of feeling, how could us mothers not understand AI? Fang Chonghua had been silent the entire time but suddenly said to his daughter, "Sure, in reality, if Tang Zheng is able to recognize his birth mother, then this is also a good thing for him. Perhaps it will be difficult for him to accept it, but in the end, parents are still parents." "Dad, although I understand this reasoning, this matter may not necessarily make sense," Fang Shishir said. "Is there really no hope for me?" Lan Yu was in a daze. Marshall had never seen her master's wife like this before and felt extremely pained. She really wanted to fiercely beat Tang Zheng up, but right now, she was not Tang Zheng's opponent, so she could only think about it. Fang Shishir pondered for a moment and said, "If there really is a glimmer of hope, then there is only one person who can do it. His grandfather. He and his grandfather depend on each other for survival. Grandfather is the most important person in his life and he listens to his grandfather the most. If his grandfather wants him to recognize you, then he definitely will not disobey." In reality, Fang Shishir felt pity for Lan Yu. As a woman, although she did not have a child, she could roughly imagine Lan Yu's pain. Moreover, she also knew that ever since he was young, Tang Zheng wished to have a normal family and have parents to love him. Although these feelings gradually faded, in reality, they were always buried deep in his heart. If he really did have parents to love him, then in the end, it would definitely be a good thing for him and he would be able to fulfill his wish. His grandfather? Lan Yu was bewildered. Would he do that? After all, Tang Zheng is his grandson who depends on each other for survival. Would he let others take him away? First of all, I want to make one point clear. No one can take Tang Zheng away from his grandfather. Grandfather's position in his heart is unique. But grandfather is truly a kind-hearted person. He definitely wants to see Tang Zheng reunite with his family. Fang Shishir said. Chapter 524. After Tang Zheng sent Lan Yu and Wu away, his grandfather went home. The old man also complained about why Tang Zheng did not keep the guests for dinner. Tang Zheng explained a few words, had breakfast, and was ready to go out. The old man was also a restless character. During his absence, the recycle bin almost stagnated, and his old companion's income sharply decreased. He was very worried, so he was ready to go to the recycle bin. Tang Zheng asked Wu and Gui Qiansui to protect his grandfather, so there was a strange scene on the street. A big turtle with a small dog-like animal lying on its back followed an old man through the streets. Many people were amazed. They had seen people walking dogs and cats, but this was the first time they saw people walking a turtle. Fortunately, the old man's heart was a lot stronger than before. He did not care about the strange eyes around him, and quickly walked to the recycle bin. Gui Qiansui's speed was not slow, and followed step by step. Xiaobai was still a fat boy, lying on Gui Qiansui's back without moving. For Xiaobai's change, Tang Zheng could not figure it out. This little guy was not like other demon beasts that could speak. What changes would there be? He could only wait and see. Ling followed Tang Zheng closely, which attracted a lot of people's attention. When the two came to an office building, many white-collar workers frequently glanced at Ling. However, Linger only had Tang Zheng in her heart and did not care about others. This made these white-collar workers, who claimed to be experts in picking up girls, feel frustrated. Pushing open the door of an office, the fierce discussion in the room came to an abrupt end. They all turned to look at Tang Zheng. "Young Master Tang." Several people shouted in unison. Tang Zheng nodded to several people. Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix's eyebrows were full of excitement. These two old brothers and sisters had experienced a lot of storms, but at this moment they could not help but feel excited. This was because Tang Zheng had already said that they were going to play a big game this time, so that those rascals would not dare to provoke them easily. In the past, Tang Zheng was considered a tycoon, but the situation he created was too small. It was no wonder that others ignored him. Even if he relied on selling life-continuing pills to earn billions or even tens of billions of gold coins, he still couldn't compare to the influence of the several great families. Because the money was all in his wallet, it didn't have much use. This was a principle that Tang Jing had recently comprehended. Xing Feng had done all kinds of evil, but why didn't he dare to go to war with the other families? That was because the other families had too many properties and too many implications. This was not just because the big families were rich, but because their businesses were closely related to too many ordinary people. There were people from these families in all aspects of the country, and many people's lives were affected by these families. It was like a large factory with millions of workers. Would the country dare to touch this factory? Of course not, because once they did, it would cause problems in the lives of hundreds of people. This was an unstable factor, and could even cause the situation to become unstable. This was a consequence that Xing Feng could not bear. But to deal with Tang Jing, there was no need to worry about this. He was only in the corner of ordinary balance. Moreover, he was inextricably linked to the underworld. To deal with him, it could even be justified in the name of fighting against the underworld. Tang Jing had to turn this situation around. The only way was to make his business bigger and stronger, and kidnap more people onto his ship. Whether it was the current Xing Feng or the others in the future, no one would dare to act rashly. This was influence. When Tang Jing told them this idea, Mu Hongyan was very impressed. Because this was what the big families did. For example, although the Chu family no longer had a pillar of support, it was still a big family that was difficult for ordinary people to reach. The country still would not make a move against this family. Although it was foreseeable that the Chu family would go downhill, he could still maintain his position in the short term, although his influence in front of other families would weaken a lot. After experiencing so many things, Tang Jing finally understood the essence of it. This was growth. Only by experiencing it personally could one truly understand it. Mu Hongyan was calmer than Qilin and Huofeng. She nodded at Tang Jing, but her eyes fell on Linger. Her eyes flashed with a touch of amazement. She thought that Tang Jing really did not lack beautiful girls. Who was this? Lin Hu and Huofeng also saw Linger. Huofeng could not help but exclaim, "Wow, what a beautiful girl." Tang Jing smiled and said, "Her name is Linger." Lin Hu looked meaningfully at Tang Jing. He thought with an evil smile, could this be young Master Tang's close female friend? Young Master Tang's luck with women was too good. This would make all the men in the world jealous. Tang Jing, we have discussed a bit. Based on your opinion, we have made a detailed plan. In fact, this plan is a further refinement and improvement of the previous plan. According to what you said, our previous plan is still too small. We must aim to be number one. Mu Hongyan understood Tang Jing's intention and said meticulously. Tang Jing nodded with appreciation. I am most relieved when Big Sister Mu is handling things. Although we have encountered the biggest crisis not long ago, the phoenix will shine brighter after its nirvana. Our business empire is the same. Then what if the Dragon Group people come to make trouble? In the next few days, I will take care of this matter and completely eliminate the annoying flies from the Dragon Group. Tang Jing said in high spirits. The others did not doubt whether he could do it or not. This was because they had absolute confidence in Tang Jing. This time, we must advance in many ways. Moreover, we must expand our business empire as fast as possible. Tang Jing said, the fastest way to see results is to acquire the existing assets. This is much faster than us starting from scratch. Mu Hongyan analyzed. I agree. I saw that there are 3 directions in the plan: real estate, clubhouse, and hotel. The layout of each direction is a little bigger. This is very good. This is also the area that everyone is familiar with. But I am prepared to add 2 more directions on this basis. Tang Jing said while holding out 2 fingers. Mu Hongyan looked at him curiously. She knew that Tang Jing's personal strength was very strong. However, his talent and ability in business was indeed average. He had never systematically studied the relevant knowledge and was used to being a shopkeeper. Therefore, she was very curious about what insights Tang Jing would come up with. One of them is the entertainment industry. Tang Jing lightly said. Entertainment industry? The other 3 were a little curious. Lin, who suspiciously said, Young Master Tang, you want to enter the entertainment industry? Tang Jing nodded. This is a very profitable industry. Moreover, it is closely related to the people's spiritual life. Now that people have money, their pursuit of spiritual life is naturally higher. Therefore, whether it is a movie or a variety show, it will be very profitable. Looking at the soaring box office, there were many poorly made movies that had hundreds of millions or even billions. This was simply robbing money. It was even more profitable than him selling the life-continuing pill. Moreover, this was a sustainable way to make money. Refining the life-continuing pill required all kinds of mysterious herbs. If any of the herbs were missing, then the life-continuing pill could not be refined. Mu Hongyan thought for a while and nodded approvingly. This direction is not bad. Although the entertainment industry is very chaotic, the speed of making money is much faster than other physical industries. It's just that we are not too familiar with this industry, so we still need to recruit professionals. Tang Jing took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to Mu Hongyan. This person is in the entertainment industry. You can contact him. Aimi. I've heard of this name before. A few years ago he was a gold medal manager. He made many artists famous, but later he offended people and was almost marginalized by the entertainment industry. He did not have any artists in his hands. Mu Hongyan looked at the business card in astonishment. Oh, this damn sissy actually lied to me. He said he was very powerful. So he was actually someone who was marginalized by the entertainment industry. Tang Jing hatefully said. This sissy bragged too much. Aimi is indeed very capable. He entered the entertainment industry when he was only 10 years old. In just a few short years he became famous. If there are no accidents, he will certainly become the most powerful gold medal manager in Huaxia. Mu Hongyan asserted. Hee, I rarely hear you praise someone like this. The entertainment industry and various rich people's lives have a lot of intersection, so I know a little about it. Aimi's incident was quite big and many people in the industry know about it. The main reason I praise him like this is because his attitude towards the artists in his hands is admirable. Tang Jing, on the other hand, did not see anything worthy of admiration about the sissy. He takes very good care of the artists in his hands. There was once a very powerful person who wanted to use the unspoken rules on one of his artists. He slapped the other party in front of everyone. The other party was not harsh and finally used all kinds of methods to suppress him. That's why he was in such a miserable state. Hey, you really can't judge a book by its cover. I didn't expect this sissy to be so manly. Tang Jing was quite surprised. After all, the entertainment industry was in a mess. Many stars were just high-class prostitutes. As long as you have money and power, sleeping with others is a common occurrence. This is also the reason why there have been so many scandals in the entertainment industry in recent years. Aimi actually went against the trend. This really requires extraordinary courage. If that's the case, then I really did pick up a treasure. Let's dig him up. Tang Jing made his decision. In fact, the reason he chose to enter the entertainment industry was because of Ling Er. Since she wants to sing and be a star, then let her be. If she signs with other companies, she will definitely be wronged. Then I'll make my own company and play according to my own rules. This way I won't be restricted by others. Since Aimi has such a bottom line, then in the future letting him take care of Ling Er, Tang Jing will also be relieved. If any blind person thinks he has some stinky money and wants to use the unspoken rules on Ling Er, then Tang Jing will definitely not be lenient and beat him until even his mother can't recognize him. Chapter 525. Mu Hongyan and the others looked at Ling Er in shock, not knowing what kind of relationship she had with Tang Jing for him to spend so much effort to make her popular. But, just based on her appearance, she definitely had the potential to be a star. Nowadays, there were still a few stars that walked the path of a jade girl, but Ling Er did not need any packaging. She was a fairy sister. Ling Er covered her small mouth and looked at Tang Jing in surprise, saying, "Master, you want me to be a star? Then Ling Er can sing, right?" Obviously, she had a soft spot for singing and could not forget it. Master? When the three heard this name, they looked at Tang Jing strangely. He knew what the other party was thinking, so he awkwardly coughed and said, "Don't think too much, Ling Er is my little sister." little sister. Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix looked at each other and thought in their hearts. Master, Ling Er is your servant. How could I have the qualifications to be your little sister? Ling Er said seriously. When Tang Zheng heard this, he deliberately put on a straight face and said, "Don't talk nonsense, from now on you are my little sister. Don't tell me you won't listen to me?" Ling Er shook her head like a rattle drum. Ling Er does not dare. Then it's decided, from now on you will have the same surname as me, Ling Er. This name sounds pretty good. Tang Zheng did not give the other party a chance to refuse. Ling Er's eyes lit up, nodding her head like she was pounding garlic, and said, "The name Master gave is really good. From now on don't call me Master, call me Big Brother, got it?" Tang Zheng did not want others to think of him as a pervert, letting such a beautiful girl call him Master. Anyone who heard this would think that there was something wrong with him. At this moment, the other three's expressions were probably the same, but they were definitely worried about his feelings and did not say it out loud. Tang Zheng also had no way to explain. As time passed, they would naturally dispel their wild guesses. "Brother!" Ling Er cried out happily. In the future, Ling Er will definitely serve Big Brother with all her heart. Hearing the word, serve, the three people's expressions became even stranger. They were even more convinced that there was something going on between the two of them. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes helplessly and continued, "Finally, the other direction is medicine." Mu Hongyan recalled the miraculous effects of the life-continuing pill, and her expression became excited. There was no doubt that Tang Zheng had an innate advantage when it came to this industry. Moreover, after this industry became bigger and stronger, it would have a greater influence than other industries because this was a matter of life and death. Therefore, Mu Hongyan was not stingy with her praise. "That's a great idea." Tang Zheng also laughed and said, "However, in this aspect, we need a medical professional to be a consultant." Mu Hongyan laughed and said, "Aren't you one? You can be considered a saint of apricot woods. You're much better than many so-called famous doctors." "Ha, you're overpraising me. I can't even be considered half a bucket of water." Tang Zheng knew his own limits. He might be able to find some pill recipes, but these things could not be mass-produced. Just like the life-continuing pill, if it was mass-produced, then it would not be worth much and would cause chaos in society. Moreover, this thing could not be mass-produced. Mu Hongyan looked at him suspiciously. She did not understand why he was so modest. "I found a consultant who is thousands of times better than me. In this world, there is someone who is thousands of times better than you in the field of medicine?" Mu Hongyan did not believe it. "The king of medicine." Tang Zheng revealed the answer. Although the king of medicine was his disciple, in his heart, the king of medicine was much better than his master in the field of medicine. He had more right to speak. Mu Hongyan said excitedly, "Senior king of medicine? Would he be willing? I heard that many pharmaceutical companies and large hospitals want to invite the king of medicine, but he rejected them all." Tang Zheng was full of confidence. "You'll know when the time comes, but I'll need you to do the specific preparations." Mu Hongyan was full of confidence. With the support of such a powerful consultant, what reason would there be for failure? "Don't worry, but with such a big mess all of a sudden, your money is only enough for the initial investment. You'll definitely need more money later. Don't worry, money is not a problem." "Then there's no problem. In addition, since we want to be big and strong, then we can't choose the location of our headquarters in Ordinary Balance." Mu Hongyan said. Ordinary Balance was not even a third-tier city, so it was impossible to choose the location of such a large business empire's headquarters. Tang Zheng thought for a moment and said, "Then where should we go?" "Beijing. It's the economic, political, and cultural center. Only in Beijing can we expand our influence." Tang Zheng nodded his head, "Okay. But Beijing is a mixed bag of crooks and dragons, and there are many local tyrants. It's also a place where many powers gather, so the difficulties we'll face will be greater." Mu Hongyan said truthfully. "We're not afraid of difficulties, but we need to have the courage and boldness to face them head-on." Tang Zheng said fearlessly as he waved his fist. Mu Hongyan looked at him approvingly. She thought that this boy was maturing little by little. She didn't know how far he could go in the future, but she really looked forward to it. Tang Zheng left the office and left Linger behind, because Mu Hongyan had already contacted AI Me to discuss the packaging of Linger. Tang Zheng walked alone on the street, looking at the bustling crowd. He was very familiar with this city that he had lived in for nearly 20 years, and he also had a lot of feelings for it. Since he wanted to become big and strong, then he couldn't treat this city unfairly. In the future, he would definitely prioritize ordinary balance. For example, some of the medical production bases would be placed in ordinary balance. This could also be considered as giving back to the city. Unknowingly, he arrived at Pengcheng International School. The school was already on winter break, so the school was empty. Standing at the school gate, looking at the silent school, he somewhat missed his high school life. Although he had only been away for half a year, too many things had happened during this time, more than anything he had experienced before. Crazy woman, why are you still bothering us? Didn't we already give you living expenses this month? How much more do you want? A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Suddenly, an angry shout rang out, interrupting Tang Zheng's thoughts. He subconsciously turned his head and saw two young people and an old woman with messy hair standing across the street. The two young people were dressed in bright clothes, while the old woman was clearly wearing old clothes. The contrast between the two sides was very obvious. The two young people were clearly a couple or husband and wife. They were holding hands, while the young woman was arrogantly shouting at the old woman. You only give me 200 yuan a month, how can I live on it? The old woman pitifully said, 200 yuan isn't enough? Then how much more do you want? Don't tell me you want us to give you all of our salary? You are too greedy. Isn't all of this your own fault? Instead of being a good teacher, you framed your students. That's why you were expelled from school, and even your pension is gone. You have become our burden. The young woman pointed at the old woman's forehead and impolitely reprimanded. The old woman cowered, not daring to refute. Tang Zheng finally recognized the other party. That senile old woman was actually his former class teacher, Wu Zehong. He deeply experienced how snobbish Wu Zehong was at that time. Even so, he didn't have much hatred for Wu Zehong. But in the end, Wu Zehong actually stole his college entrance exam ticket, wanting him to be unable to take the college entrance exam. This kind of vicious method thoroughly angered Tang Zheng. Thus, he used his battle spirit to scare her silly. He heard that she was directly expelled by the school. But now it seemed that her spirit had returned to normal, but her life was too poor. The young couple was his son and daughter-in-law. Tang Zheng had seen them come to school before. It seemed that she was disliked by her son and daughter-in-law. Husband, let's go. Don't pay attention to her. Having this kind of mother is really too embarrassing. The young woman grabbed her husband's hand and walked away. From beginning to end, the man didn't say a word. Wu Zuehong was in a daze, but there was nothing she could do. She went to the trash can and finally found 2 mineral water bottles. She tightly held them in her hand and then went to look for the next trash can. Tang Zheng silently watched. The other party obviously didn't see him, and Tang Zheng didn't feel sad or happy. He didn't feel relieved because Wu Hongtui was not worthy of his anger or hatred. She was an insignificant person. If he hadn't met her today, Tang Zheng probably wouldn't have remembered her. Of course, he wouldn't pity her. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. All of this was her own fault. If she hadn't treated Tang Zheng like that, she wouldn't have fallen to this point. She was so tough in school, but the son she taught was like a soft egg. He actually treated his own mother like this. What an unfilial son. Tang Zheng muttered to himself, but was suddenly startled because he remembered the face at the door this morning. If Wu Zuehong's son was an unfilial son, then what was he? He guiltily shook his head and comforted himself. My situation is different from his. Even if they really are my parents, they abandoned me and didn't fulfill their responsibilities as parents. What qualifications do they have to redeem everything? But looking at the other party's attitude, it seemed like they wouldn't give up until they won back Tang Zheng's heart. What should he do? What's troubling you so much that you're frowning so much? Suddenly, a person walked over and asked curiously. Tang Zheng suddenly raised his head and saw a familiar person. Why are you here? Su Yingtian said with a smile. You caused such a big commotion at the base. If I didn't come, would the dragon group come to find you first? It's good that they came. I was worried that Xing Feng wouldn't appear. Tang Jing hatefully said. Xing Feng has already been scared to death by you. Right now he's hiding in the capital with layers of guards around him. It won't be easy to touch him. Su Yingtian said. There's nothing in this world that is impossible. Tang Jing disagreed. Su Yingtian shook his head. You want to assassinate him, right? Tang Jing didn't reply, which could be considered a tacit agreement. Chapter 526. Tang Jing's face was expressionless, but his heart was moved. Su Yingtian's words were not without reason. Xing Feng was only a puppet. If they killed him, the people behind him could push out others. It would be an endless stream, and Tang Jing would be exhausted. Moreover, the country would not remain indifferent to assassinate an official of Xing Feng's level. That was because it was a challenge to the country's prestige. Just how powerful was the strength of the state of Qi? Tang Jing did not want to test it out. Could it be that only he can kill me, but I can't do anything to him? Tang Jing asked indignantly. Su Yingtian's lips curled. He knew that he had finally convinced Tang Jing. He continued, of course not. We have to set our sights further. What we are dealing with is not just Xing Feng, but the people behind him. As long as we completely topple his backer, he will be like a snake without its fangs pulled out. He will not be much of a threat. At that time, no matter how you deal with him, no one will say anything. Tang Jing looked at Su Yingtian with a burning gaze. Are you trying to clear things up for him? I, Su Yingtian, am not that bored. I am doing this for you, not for him. An outstanding young man like you will not make such a grave mistake because of Xing Feng and ruin your future. Su Yingtian said sincerely. Oh, so kind? Tang Jing was not a 3-year-old child. He would not believe just anyone's words, even if they had worked together before. Why is it so hard to do a little good in this world? Su Yingtian said with a bitter smile. Fine, I can temporarily not kill him, but you have to promise that he will not come looking for trouble with me. I do not want my family to be in danger at all times. This. Su Yingtian hesitated. If you don't agree, then there is no need for us to talk. Tang Jing was not going to be polite with him. All right, I promise you. I'll go find Xing Feng. Even if I have to give up my reputation, I'll make you guys stop fighting for the time being. Su Yingtian gritted his teeth and agreed. Tang Jing nodded his head in satisfaction. Although he couldn't completely get rid of Xing Feng, he could at least maintain peace for the time being. He had to focus on developing his business empire. Only when he expanded his influence, whether it was Xing Feng or any other government officials in the future, they would not dare to act rashly. This was one of his greatest trump cards. Of course, he still had to work hard to cultivate and quickly increase his cultivation. When a person's martial strength reached a certain level, it was enough to make the enemy hesitate. Tang Jing, in truth, if you join the National Security Bureau and obtain an official identity, this is the biggest protective talisman. Whether it is for public or private reasons, there are many benefits. Su Yingtian suggested. Tang Jing refused without hesitation. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm used to being lazy. I don't like it when others control me. Otherwise, it'll be counterproductive. Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen a pig run. Tang Jing naturally understood that there were benefits to gaining an official status, but there were more restrictions and restrictions. After all, he was a cultivator. How could he be willing to be restricted by the government? Su Yingtian's eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. The National Security Agency's door has always been open for you. Whenever you want to join, I'll welcome you with open arms. Pausing for a moment, Su Yingtian's expression became serious. Tang Jing, you know better than me what happened in the base in the desert. So I want to know what's going on with that towering tree. Your science is so advanced. Could it be that you can't detect it? Tang Jing asked back. Su Yingtian helplessly shook his head. Science can't solve all problems. You're a cultivator, so you should understand this point. Moreover, you've auctioned off so many life-continuing pills. This kind of heaven-defying thing, can science explain it? Tang Jing admitted that what he said wasn't wrong. But his words reminded him of another important question. How exactly do you government officials view cultivators? Su Yingtian seemed to have already expected him to ask this question. Without thinking, he said, "Now is not the ancient era. Science and technology is developing and its power cannot be underestimated. Although cultivators have many mysterious things, they are not natural enemies of the country. They cannot control the life and death of anyone." Tang Jing softly laughed. "It seems like you martial artists have a much more optimistic attitude. That's natural. The majority of martial artists have a very narrow vision. They only look at their own little piece of land and don't think about the big picture." Su Yingtian happily said. What big picture?" "The situation of the world. Let me ask you a question first. Why was China the best developed in ancient times? Why was it the center of the world? Why was it the golden age of all countries?" Su Yingtian threw out a question that was similar to history. Today's history teachers have also talked about this question many times. They believed that the Western countries' science and technology developed faster and Hua Xia closed up the country. Because of this, they fell behind and were passively beaten. But the answer Su Yingtian wanted was definitely not this. Tang Zheng couldn't help but bitterly think about it. Hua Xia's decline began in the last dynasty. After the cultivators were expelled, Hua Xia gradually declined and was even bullied by the Western countries. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at Su Yingtian. He bewilderedly said, "Could it be that all of this is related to the disappearance of cultivators?" Su Yingtian nodded his head in praise. "The younger generation will surpass us in time." Many people bitterly ponder over this question for several decades before they can understand it, but you can understand it with just a hint. Tang Jing still felt like he was shrouded in fog and said, "But I still don't understand what exactly is going on." It's very simple. Before the cultivators were expelled, they were the most powerful group in the world. Whether it was Hua Xia or the West, there was no one who could contend against the cultivators. And the cultivators are a unique product of our Hua Xia. They don't exist anywhere else. In addition, in ancient times, the West was a barren land. Normal people were not willing to set foot in it and their development was very slow. These barren people greatly respected Hua Xia, so they sent envoys from thousands of miles away to worship and learn from them. Many of Hua Xia's technologies were learned by them. Ever since the disappearance of the cultivators, the Western countries were no longer restrained by the cultivators, so they developed rapidly and uncontrollably. Their science and technology changed with each passing day, which was why the Western powers bullied my Hua Xia, causing Hua Xia to suffer a history of humiliation that had never happened before. Su Yingtian sighed after he finished speaking, feeling extremely moved. Perhaps New Era never dreamed that the expulsion of the cultivators would leave behind such a huge problem, almost bringing Hua Xia into a situation of eternal damnation. When Tang Zheng heard this, he was flabbergasted. These words had a huge impact on him. He had always been worried that the cultivators would carry out inhumane revenge when they returned to this world, so he had always been hesitant about whether or not he should let them return to this world. According to Su Yingtian, weren't the cultivators the gospel of this world? With the cultivators, this country could once again soar and stand at the peak of the world? If the cultivators returned to this world, wouldn't it be of great benefit to the country? Tang Zheng couldn't help but ask. Logically speaking, that should be the case, but the world is changing. After all, after so many years, we can't figure out what the cultivators have become, so we have to be cautious about this matter. Moreover, the cultivators have already been expelled. How can they return to this world? Didn't the demon god come back from the sky beyond? Tang Zheng reminded. Su Yingtian waved his hand. He did not take it to heart and insisted, "That's just an example. It's impossible for cultivators to return on a large scale." Tang Zheng understood that the demon god could use the mountain river blood sacrifice array to summon the demon clan back, but the officials did not know about it, and Li Xiaotian did not tell the officials about it. Otherwise, Su Yingtian would not be so confident that the cultivators would not return on a large scale. Tang Zheng thought about it, but did not tell the other party this news, Because words were not proof, he could not determine the true attitude of the officials towards the cultivators just based on these words. The officials were very cunning. What if Su Yingtian was just throwing a smoke bomb and did not have good intentions towards the cultivators? They had to be careful. Actually, the martial artists are very powerful now. If there is a balance between the cultivators, it is actually good for the country. Su Yingtian added. Cultivators and martial artists are like fire and water. I'm afraid there is no chance for them to get along peacefully. Tang Jing said. It's better to have a balance when there is a struggle. Su Yingtian did not care. Tang Jing understood. This was the official's favorite way to balance, letting the two forces fight each other, and he would benefit from it. However, the officials miscalculated one thing: the cultivators were stronger than they thought. Whether it was martial artists or their self-proclaimed powerful technology, they might not be a match for the cultivators. Tang Jing did not need to remind the other party. This would instead make them be on guard against the cultivators. Let's return to the main topic. What is going on with that big tree? Su Yingtian said. It is called the Tree of Life. It is said to be the origin of all living things. It can emit pure spiritual energy, improving the environment and air between heaven and earth. Tang Jing paused for a moment, suddenly having a strange idea. He laughed involuntarily. Maybe the haze that shrouds everywhere will gradually dissipate under the influence of the Tree of Life. Su Yingtian was slightly startled and seriously said, "Does it really have such a miraculous effect?" You must have seen the yellow sand under the Tree of Life. There is already green grass growing on it. This cannot be faked. Tang Jing reminded. Su Yingtian sighed emotionally and said, "Let me tell you, these few days the grass is still spreading outwards. According to the experts, it will not be long before the boundless desert becomes a grassland suitable for humans to live in." Tang Jing cried out in surprise and said, It seems that the effect is better than I expected, so it really is not a lie to say that it will improve the air. Perhaps the Tree of Life will be able to solve the problems of the Environmental Protection Department." Chapter 527. Tang Jing did not care whether the Ministry of Environmental Protection officials were happy or not, but thought of another situation. The Tree of Life improved the air, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth would become more and more abundant. This way, cultivators would be able to cultivate faster, and this continent would be more suitable for cultivators to cultivate. It was equivalent to preparing the external conditions for cultivators to return. Could it be that this was the will of the heavens, borrowing his hand to create such a good condition for cultivators? Su Yingtian clearly did not think of this point, and continued to ask, "What other magical aspects does the Tree of Life have?" "I don't know, you will have to find out for yourselves." Tang Jing spread out his hands and said helplessly. At that time, there were two other people that appeared in the base. One of them was your old acquaintance, Marshall, while the other person's identity was mysterious. I was actually unable to find out anything about her. I heard that they also came to Chongqing City. Do you know who they are? Su Yingtian could not help but ask Lan Yu, whom he had only met once, as if it was still fresh in his memory. "I don't know." Tang Jing replied expressionlessly. Su Yingtian looked at him deeply, but did not delve deeper, only reminding him, "This woman is not simple. We are unable to determine how high her cultivation is, but I can tell you one thing. When you were trapped in the cave, she once broke into the base and started a massacre. Moreover, she was aiming for you. I only found out about this later." Tang Jing's heart moved. She actually broke into the base for him, and even started a massacre. This was something he did not expect. One of the dragon group's mecha was destroyed by her hands. If you meet her, do not lower your guard. Su Yingtian warned. Tang Jing's head thumped. The opponent's strength was too strong. Tang Jing had to use a Herculean effort, and even had to use the four symbols venerable to defeat the mecha, but the opponent was able to do this alone. It was not easy. Then she was determined to improve her relationship with Tang Jing. What could he do? Could he forcefully drive her away? The opponent was so powerful, he might not be able to do this. I wonder where she went. He subconsciously started to think, but he did not think that Lan Yu would have gone to find her grandfather directly. Lan Yu personally visited the recycle bin. When she stood in front of the mountain of junk, she couldn't help but frown. She was a bit of a clean freak. If it were in the past, she would never have come here. But now, she had no choice but to come. Besides, she also wanted to see the old man who had painstakingly raised Tang Zheng. She held her breath and walked into the yard of the recycling station. It had been expanded a lot. This was the result of the hard work of Tang Dehai and a group of old fellows in the past 6 months. Their recycle bin was doing very well. Even if Tang Dehai was taken away, a few old fellows were struggling to maintain it. Seeing that Tang Dehai had returned, the group of old fellows seemed to have found their backbone again. They rushed to tell each other and were overjoyed. "Excuse me, is Mr. Tang Dehai around?" Lan Yu took the initiative to ask. The group of old fellows in the yard all turned around and looked at the two strangers. Without a doubt, Lan Yu and Wu's temperament was incompatible with the environment. With a single glance, they could tell that the other party's identity was not ordinary. Many old fellows immediately became uneasy. They looked at the two of them uneasily and then looked at Tang Dehai. Tang Dehai walked out and suspiciously looked at the two of them and said, "I am Tang Dehai. Why are you looking for me?" In the past 6 months, after Tang Zheng had consumed the life-continuing pill, he was in high spirits. Moreover, his life had greatly improved and his temperament had also undergone a great change. If he were to walk out alone, he would definitely not be treated as an old man picking up junk. However, the honest smile that he was born with still hung on his face. Lan Yu stared at Tang Dehai, as if she wanted to see every detail of him clearly. Although Tang Dehai had changed a lot, the meticulous Lan Yu could still see the traces left behind by the burden of life on his body. Lan Yu took the initiative to extend her hand and politely said, "Old man, hello, my name is Lan Yu. Nice to meet you." Tang Dehai politely said, "May I ask who you are? What business do you have with me?" Lan Yu glanced at the others and said in a low voice, "Can we find a place to talk?" Tang Dehai muttered to himself for a moment, then led the way. "Please follow me." Leading the two of them to the door of a room, Lan Yu gave Wu a look. Wu nodded in understanding and stood at the door with his arms crossed, like a door god. The others whispered to each other, discussing who these two people were to put on such airs. Tang Dehai was also guessing the other party's identity. He poured a cup of water for Lan Yu and asked straightforwardly, "Can we talk now?" Lan Yu's expression became serious and said, "Old man, I want to hear the details of how you picked up Tang Zheng." "Little Zheng." Tang Dehai was startled, his expression became strange. "This is already an adult's past, it's not worth mentioning. But I'm very interested. I wonder if old master can let me get what I want?" Lan Yu looked at the other party with a burning gaze, and asked without giving up. Tang Dehai was not an idiot. Now that so many things had happened, and the other party was obviously here for Tang Zheng, he immediately thought wrongly. He thought that the other party was here to cause trouble for Tang Zheng again, which was why he wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. The old man's heart was filled with a rare anger, and he said indignantly, "Are you people done yet? How did my grandson offend you? Why do you want to kill him?" Lan Yu was startled for a moment, then immediately understood that Tang Dehai had misunderstood her. She felt a little sad but also a little relieved. At least Tang Dehai was truly concerned about Tang Zheng, and this relationship between grandfather and grandson was not the least bit fake. Lan Yu was not angry, but instead gently explained, "Old man, you misunderstood. I am not here to deal with Tang Zheng. I have no ill intentions towards him, towards you." "Heng, you still want to lie to me? Seeing that you are so beautiful, why do you like to lie so much? Let me tell you, you can't lie, you will suffer the consequences of your own actions in the future." Tang Dehai sincerely taught, "Old master, I am telling the truth. I have no ill intentions towards Tang Zheng, and will protect him at all costs." Lan Yu said with certainty. Tang Dehai was stunned, and looked at the other party dumbfoundedly, and asked in bewilderment, "You are not one of those people who came to cause trouble for little Zheng?" Lan Yu shook her head, "Of course not." "Then who are you?" Lan Yu hesitated for a moment and said, "I am his biological mother." Tang Dehai cried out in alarm, and jumped up from his chair. He stared at Lan Yu in disbelief and stammered, You? For a long time he was unable to say a word. In fact, he had fantasized that Tang Zheng's family would come to find him, but after waiting for nearly 20 years, not a single person came to find Tang Zheng. In the end, he no longer held any hope, and guessed that maybe when the other party abandoned Tang Zheng, they never thought that they would come to find him again. But at this moment, a living person stood in front of him and said that she was Tang Zheng's biological mother. How could he not be surprised? Outside the house, a group of old fellows heard Tang Dahai scream and looked at each other at the same time, thinking that maybe the woman wanted to harm the old fellow. The group of people became excited and shouted as they rushed forward, "You are not allowed to hurt old Tang, or else we old fellows will fight it out with you." Wu stood at the door, and with one man guarding the pass, 10,000 people could not get through. Who could break through, but she did not make a move on these people, and only used a gentle force to shake them all away. Hearing the shouting outside the door, Tang Dahai hurriedly said that he was fine, and told everyone to disperse and not to worry about him. Only then did the group of old fellows give up. Tang Dahai finally calmed down, and his eyes became very complicated. He bitterly asked, "Why is it that after so many years, all of you did not ask about little Zheng, and only came to find him now? Do you know how much he wanted you to come find him when he was young, so that he could have a father and mother, and a complete family?" Hearing this, Lan Yu's brows revealed a pained expression and said, "I always thought that he was no longer in this world, but the heavens pitied him, and let him meet a kind person like you." No longer in this world? If I hadn't accidentally picked him up back then, I'm afraid that he really wouldn't be in this world anymore. Tang Dahai said snappily. "Yes, this is all my fault. Back then, I didn't protect him well, and was a villain who harmed him. This is all because I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a mother. Old master, no matter if you scold me or hit me, I won't have a single word of complaint, because I brought this upon myself." Lan Yu was dejected and said with tears in her eyes, "Someone wants to harm him? But he's still a baby. Who could be so heartless?" Tang Dahai would not hit or scold her, but he was shocked by this news. Lan Yu shook her head. "It's hard to explain what happened back then. The child was stolen from me. At that time, I had just given birth to him, and my body was weak, so I didn't have the strength to protect him. That's why the villain took advantage of this opportunity. Too vicious, to actually make a move on a baby. If I were to meet him, I would risk my old bones to get an explanation for little Zheng." Tang Dahai was so angry that his face turned red, and he said indignantly. Seeing him reveal his sincere feelings, Lan Yu said from the bottom of her heart, "He is more fortunate to have a grandfather like you than a mother like me. You are more competent than me. No wonder his feelings for you are so deep, and he isn't even willing to say a word to me, let alone forgive me." Hearing this, Tang Dahai's heart thumped, and he nervously asked, "You've seen little Zheng?" Lan Yu dejectedly nodded her head, "But he doesn't want to see me at all. This mother of mine is really the world's biggest failure of a mother." Hearing this, Tang Dahai suddenly felt a little frightened. His grandson was his only support, and had been his spiritual support for all these years. Now that his family had found him, his grandson was no longer his, but someone else's. Chapter 528. Lan Yu's eyes were sharp and her hands were quick. She immediately supported him and called out, "Old master, what happened to you?" Tang Dahai was hit by this sudden turn of events. He fainted and lost consciousness. Unable to wake him up, Lan Yu was deeply afraid that he would have an accident. Then, she really didn't want to recognize Tang Zheng, so she hurriedly picked up the old man and rushed out. "Let's go to the hospital." When the other old fellows saw this, they turned pale with fright. "What did you do to old Tang? If you dare to hurt him, his grandson little Zheng will not let you off." Wu was also stunned for a moment. He thought to himself, could it be that mistress had injured him? She didn't have time to think about it carefully. Seeing that her mistress had already rushed out of the courtyard, she quickly chased after her. Tang Zheng and Su Yingtian parted ways. Su Yingtian returned to Beijing with the information he needed. He also wanted to fulfill the promise he made to Tang Zheng and get Xing Feng to stop fighting for the time being. Tang Zheng had just walked to the entrance of the neighborhood when he saw an old man rushing over. He recognized that this man was one of his grandfather's old friends. Little Zheng, something big happened to your grandfather and he was sent to the hospital. The old man's face was red as he said breathlessly. Tang Zheng's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly asked, "What happened to my grandfather?" "Two women came to look for him today. I don't know what happened in the room. Your grandfather was carried out and unconscious. The others have already chased him to the hospital. I specially came to inform you." Two women? Tang Zheng's eyes flashed. He guessed that it must be that woman and Wu. Speaking of which, he still did not know what that woman's name was. However, at this moment, he did not have a good impression of these two people, only a burning anger. They actually went crazy and attacked his grandfather. That was absolutely unforgivable. He immediately hailed a taxi and sped to the hospital. At the entrance of the hospital, he immediately saw Wu. Wu also saw him and quickly walked over to welcome him. However, before she could even open her mouth, she saw Tang Zheng attack. This move was extremely sharp. Marshall hurriedly blocked it, but with a muffled bang, she flew out like a kite with a broken string, fiercely crashing into the wall. Tang Zheng didn't give the other party a chance to speak. His anger exploded. When the others saw his murderous look, they all kept quiet out of fear. Tang Zheng coldly snorted. He did not care about Wu at all. Moreover, this move could not harm her life, it was just a small lesson. Ignoring Marshall, who was struggling to get up, Tang Zheng had already rushed through the door. Marshall's face was pale, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He resisted the roiling blood and shouted weakly, "8th floor of the inpatient department." Tang Zheng ignored her kind reminder. He couldn't wait to take the elevator. He rushed up the stairs like a whirlwind and went straight to the 8th floor. From afar, he saw an old friend of his grandfather walking out of a ward. He immediately ran over and saw his grandfather lying on the bed. There were a few people around the bed, and Lan Yu was among them. "You woman, what a vicious heart. I want to take revenge for my grandfather." He rushed towards Lan Yu like a madman, his fingers like a sword, attacking Lan Yu. Lan Yu raised her head to look at him, her face revealing a pleasantly surprised expression. When she saw him crazily attacking her, she did not dodge, nor did she counterattack. She allowed this fierce attack to hit her body. She took a small step back, but the corner of her mouth carried a gentle smile as she looked kindly at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's originally prepared continuous attacks came to an abrupt end. He did not expect that the other party would not resist at all. From beginning to end, he had a kind smile on his face. This smile seemed to have a magical power, causing his following moves to instantly collapse and be unable to be used. "Why didn't you fight back? Could it be that you know you're in the wrong?" Lan Yu gently said, "I won't do anything to my own child. This is a mother's instinct. But you hurt my grandfather. This is unforgivable." Tang Zheng's killing intent soared. He was about to make a move when he heard two voices shout in unison, "Stop!" Wu stood at the door, panicking. He leaped in front of his master's wife to protect her. He flew into a rage. "Tang Zheng, you sure have guts. You dare to make a move on your master's wife. Little Zheng, you absolutely can't. This is disgraceful." Tang Dehai, who was lying on the bed, had already woken up. Seeing this scene, he bitterly cried out. Hearing his grandfather's voice, Tang Zheng was wild with joy. He turned around and pounced towards his grandfather. Seeing that his grandfather's face was pale, but his life was not in danger, he let out a big sigh of relief. He held his grandfather's hand and asked with concern, "Grandfather, how are you? Where did she hurt you?" "Little Zheng, you almost made a big mistake. How could you make a move on her?" Tang Dehai anxiously said. "She hurt grandfather. Of course I have to make a move." Tang Zheng said without thinking. "Who said she hurt me? I just fainted. It's not her fault. You misunderstood her." Tang Dehai explained. "Misunderstanding?" Tang Zheng was stunned. He had a strong first impression and actually wronged the other party. He turned his head to look at Lan Yu and Wu. Lan Yu still had a smile on his face, without the slightest bit of resentment. However, Wu was indignant as he fiercely glared at Tang Zheng. Since it was a misunderstanding, why didn't she dodge? "Little Zheng, this lady might be your family. How could you make a move on her?" Lan Yu heard this and generously waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter. If he hits me, I will willingly accept it." Master's wife? Wu Zheng wanted to refute but was stopped by Lan Yu, causing Wu to stare at Tang Zheng with dissatisfaction. "Old friends, you guys go back first. This is a small matter of our family. I've troubled everyone." Tang Dehai persuaded the others to leave and the ward quieted down. "Little Zheng, I have something to say to you. Didn't you always want to have a father and mother when you were young? Now that your family has found you, you've gotten what you wanted." Tang Dehai squeezed out a smile, but it had a bitter taste. "My family only has you, grandfather. You were the one who raised me. It has nothing to do with anyone else." Tang Zheng immediately retorted. Tang Dehai's face darkened and said, "Nonsense. How did I teach you since you were young? In life, one must first be filial. No matter how great a person's achievements are, if they do not know filial piety, then they are not considered a person. Your life was given to you by your parents, so you must be filial to your parents. But they have already abandoned me. The only reason I didn't die was because I met grandfather, so my life was already returned to them when they abandoned me." Tang Zheng said resolutely and decisively. Tang Dehai flew into a rage. He blew at his beard and stared, berating, "Outrageous! If they did not give you life, would you have met me? Would you have been able to see this wonderful world? So, in the end, you have to thank your parents for giving birth to you. I only have the grace of raising you." Tang Dehai previously fainted because he could not accept the fact that Tang Zheng was leaving him, because Tang Zheng was his motivation to live on. But now that he had recovered, although he still could not bear to part with Tang Zheng, the principle of right and wrong in his bones prevented him from doing anything that went against the principle of righteousness. What was righteousness? The grace of his parents was a great grace. This was his righteousness. No matter what, he would not go against it. He also did not want Tang Zheng to go against it and bear the infamy of being a traitor. This was Tang Dehai's most simple way of thinking. As a grandfather, he had the most sincere feelings for his grandson. Even if he felt wronged in his heart, he still had to protect his grandson. "In my heart, grandfather's grace of raising me is greater than the grace of giving birth to me." Tang Zheng straightened his neck and said unyieldingly, "Nonsense, want to anger me to death?" Tang Dehai raised his hand and wanted to slap him, but he could not. He could not bear to. Looking at his grandfather's angry and sad appearance, Tang Zheng was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Lan Yu was previously worried that the old man would make things difficult for her, but now she realized that she was really measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Although the old man did not read many books and did not have much experience, he was more righteous than many of the so-called dignified gentlemen. He had a simple and kind heart. In comparison, Lan Yu could not help but feel inferior. "Old man, don't say any more. This is not little Zheng's fault. He is right, it is all my fault. As a mother, I was unable to protect my child. This is a mother's dereliction of duty. I do not have the qualifications to ask for anything else." Lan Yu suddenly knelt in front of Tang Dehai, tears flickering in her eyes as she said in a tearful voice, "Master's wife, you absolutely cannot." Wu was shocked. In her heart, her master's wife had always been high and mighty, but at this moment, she was kneeling in front of an old man who did not know martial arts. She wanted to pull her master's wife up, but the other party was like a huge boulder, not moving at all. Tang Zheng was also a little surprised, and the anger that had been accumulating couldn't help but decrease a little. Tang Dehai was shocked and immediately resisted the urge to sit up, pulling Lan Yu with all his might, shouting, you can't, I am an old man, how can you kneel to me? Hurry up and get up, get up." Lan Yu did not move at all and said emotionally, "Old man, you are little Zheng's grandfather, so you are my elder, so it is natural for me to kneel to you. Moreover, you raised him up, so even if I were to kneel in front of you, I would not be able to repay this kindness." "Sai, you're exaggerating. Quickly get up, little Zheng, what are you in a daze for? Quickly help your mother up," Tang Dehai ordered. Although Tang Zheng was unwilling, seeing that his grandfather was about to get angry, he reluctantly supported Lan Yu. Lan Yu looked at him in a daze, but still did not move. Tang Jing fiercely used his strength, but the other party was still as steady as a rock. Only now did he understand that Su Yingtian was not lying, her strength was truly unfathomable, and he was definitely not her opponent. Just now, she could easily dodge his attack, but she did not dodge. Old man, this is what I should do. I kneel down, not only to thank you for your kindness, but also to atone for my own sins. Lan Yu said, What's in? What's in? If you still want to kneel, then I will also get off the bed and kneel. Tang Dehai had never been kneeled in his life. Chapter 529. Tang Dehai did not like others kneeling to him, nor was he willing to kneel to others. Moreover, how could he, who was simple in his bones, accept such a big gift? Lan Yu was forced to stand up and support Tang Dehai. Old man, lie down first. Don't tire yourself out. Tang Dehai let out a long breath, the corner of his mouth squeezed out a smile and said, You mother and son have reunited. Have a good chat first. I have nothing to talk about with her. Tang Jing said with a straight face. Who said there is nothing to talk about? We must talk. Tang Dehai said firmly. Tang Zheng was helpless as he did not want to go against his grandfather's orders. Lan Yu said with a smile, Old man, since the child is not willing, I will not force him. How am I forcing him? This child is usually very obedient, but at critical times he likes to be stubborn with a bull's temper. This is all because I did not teach him well. Tang Dehai said with a calm face. Old man, you are modest. It is because you taught him well that he has today's achievements. Lan Yu said from the bottom of her heart. Although Tang Dehai did not have much culture and was a rough person, and the conditions were so difficult, teaching a child like Tang Zheng was indeed a feat that many wealthy families could not achieve. The corner of Tang Dehai's mouth revealed a trace of a relieved smile as he kindly looked at Tang Zheng. With your words, then my 20 years of hard work have not been in vain. Seeing his grandfather's attitude, Tang Zheng knew that he could not avoid it this time. He said to Lan Yu in a bad mood, Come out and talk. Lan Yu was flattered and hurriedly nodded, Okay, let's go out and talk. Tang Dehai did not forget to remind him, Little Zheng, speak properly. Don't put on a bitter face, understand? Tang Zheng reluctantly squeezed out a smile at his grandfather and walked out of the ward with Lan Yu. When they arrived at the stairwell, he looked at her with an unkind expression and said, I don't know what you are planning. You actually went to find my grandfather and angered him to the point of being hospitalized. Do you think I will forgive you? Lan Yu's face was full of shame. She took a deep breath and said, Child, I don't dare to ask for your forgiveness. Before I went to find the old man, I didn't think that things would turn out like this. This is my fault. I apologize to you. Looking at her sincere expression, Tang Zheng could not help but think of the martial order sect master. These two people seemed to be very different. The martial order sect master always had a straight face and did not smile, giving Tang Zheng the impression that he was cold and heartless. However, Lan Yu really had too much of a motherly radiance. He had made things difficult for her time and time again, and even attacked her, but she did not complain at all. Instead, she took the initiative to admit her mistakes and ask for forgiveness. Everyone's heart was made of flesh. Tang Zheng's tone also softened a little. Then what exactly do you want? I just want to see you. I want to hear how you've been through all these years. I want to have another me in your life from now on. Lan Yu said expectantly. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, You're so sure that I'm your son? Of course. Perhaps before I saw you, I would have doubted it. However, after seeing you, this feeling of connection between mother and son will not lie to me. Heng, how come I don't feel it? Tang Zheng said without any trace of politeness. You will feel it in the future. Lan Yu said without any objection. Then why did you abandon me in the past? This was the question that Tang Zheng was most confused about. When he was young, he had asked the sky many times, but no one answered him. Even though he was now an adult, he still wanted to know the answer to this question. It's a long story. In short, as a mother, I did not protect my own child. This is my fault. Lan Yu did not try to defend herself. Instead, she took the blame. I don't need such a general answer. I want a detailed answer. Tang Zheng was not satisfied. Don't worry, I will tell you the whole story. This is related to the martial order's complicated matters. It is not something that can be explained in a few words. Moreover, this is related to the safety of your life in the future. In the future? Could it be that I'm still in danger? Tang Zheng was flabbergasted. Lan Yu nodded, yes. Back then, someone wanted to harm you. Although the main culprit is no longer in this world, he still has some remnants. If he knows that you are still in this world, I'm afraid that he will not let this matter rest and will harm you. Tang Zheng laughed coldly and said, back then, I was just a baby in swaddling clothes. You could decide my life and death at will. However, I am no longer a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. If you want to kill me, it won't be that easy. To be honest, although he did not remember what happened back then, the other party had actually made a move on a baby who did not know anything. This enmity was too great. Tang Zheng would not turn a blind eye to it. Even if the other party did not come looking for him, he would not let them go. Seeing him make such a solemn vow, Lan Yu's face revealed a gratified expression. She praised, you've really grown up. Don't worry. Back then, I was weak after giving birth, which gave the bad people a chance to take advantage of me. Now, if anyone wants to harm you, they will have to step over my dead body first. Tang Zheng's eyebrows jumped. Her tone and expression were definitely not right. If anyone really wanted to deal with Tang Zheng, she would not hesitate to give up her life to protect him. Tang Zheng was somewhat moved. He was a person who knew how to be grateful. How could he not be moved when a person was so good to him? However, when he thought of the fact that he was abandoned back then, Tang Zheng's heart became stone again. He still had a straight face and asked, then who wanted to harm me back then? Who wants to harm me now? Lan Yu hesitated for a moment and said, Martial Organization's Sect Master. Martial Organization's Sect Master? Didn't Martial say that I was his son? No, it's not the current Sect Master, but the previous Sect Master. When I gave birth to you, he said that you were not suited to practice martial arts. Instead, you had the 9-yang saint body that only appears once in 1,000 years. This is a very suitable physique for cultivators. The martial organization's mission is to kill all the cultivators in the world. He immediately decided to kill you to prevent you from becoming a powerful cultivator that can threaten martial artists in the future. Tang Zheng's heart was in turmoil. The previous martial organization's sect master really had a pair of fiery eyes. He actually recognized his physique. Moreover, he knew too much. He knew that this kind of rare physique would not be small and would threaten the existence of the martial organization. The previous sect master decided to sacrifice your little life in order to prevent the martial organization from being ridiculed by the world. All of this was done behind my back. By the time I found out, it was already too late. I thought that you had already fallen under his evil hands. Lan Yu said in agony. Why didn't I die? Why did I come to this ordinary balance? Lan Yu shook her head. I don't know either. I'm afraid that only one person knows the answer. Your birth father, my husband, the current martial organization's sect master. Him. Tang Zheng could not help but recall that stern face. From his eyes, he could see the kindness of a father. On the contrary, it was the decisiveness of a superior. Why is he the only one who knows? Because of the jade pendant on your body. That jade pendant is the keepsake of the successor of the martial organization's sect master. Back then, your father was the successor of the martial organization's sect master. This jade pendant was always with him. Later on, it appeared on your body. Therefore, only he knows what happened back then. Lan Yu also wanted to know the answer. She could not wait to fly back and ask her husband clearly. Then where did the previous sect master go? Towards this enemy, Tang Zheng could not ignore it. He's already dead. He got lucky. Since he's dead, why do you say that I'm still in danger? Although he's dead, his influence still exists. Although the martial sect has a new sect master, many old people are still thinking about the old sect master. If they knew that you weren't dead, these old people would definitely not let this matter rest. Tang Zheng frowned and said, That's not right. Since that's the case, Then why is this sect master still thinking about it and asking Wu to do everything he can to get me to go to the martial sect? Isn't this throwing himself into a trap? I know that too. Lan Yu shook her head. Tang Jing rolled his eyes, and with a flash of inspiration, he said, could it be that he wants to kill me like the previous sect master? But in the next moment, he rejected this thought. If the other party really wanted to make a move on him, then he wouldn't have sacrificed his martial arts to save his life in the 10,000 huge mountains. No, he's your father after all. How could he do anything to you? As expected, Lan Yu immediately retorted. Tang Zheng was unable to calm down after all. He asked snappily, back then, your body was weak and you couldn't protect me. Could it be that his body is also weak? No, you don't know how powerful the old sect master is. No one is his match. In the martial sect, his words carry weight. Even the successor doesn't dare to go against him. Could it be that if the other party wanted to kill his son, he would turn a blind eye to it? Tang Zheng asked disdainfully. Lan Yu was speechless. Although Tang Zheng was furious, his interest was also piqued. Back then, this matter was undoubtedly a secret of the martial sect, and no one else would know about it. Since he was involved, then he had to get to the bottom of it. No matter what happened back then, in short, this was too cruel to an infant child. Today, you guys are spouting nonsense, so don't think that I can easily forgive you guys. Furthermore, my surname is Tang now, not any other surname. Tang Zheng said resolutely. Right, what is the current martial sect master called? He was an orphan adopted by the old sect master. He followed the old sect master's surname Wu and was named Jun Shan. However, very few people know this name. Lan Yu said, Wu Jun Shan. Tang Zheng muttered and said happily, fortunately, I didn't stay in the martial sect. Otherwise, using this surname would be a lifetime of shame. Seeing him so resolute, Lan Yu didn't correct him. Perhaps, in her heart, she also had a natural resistance to this surname. Child, it's impossible for your identity to be hidden from too many people. As long as they know about this matter, they definitely won't let it go. So, from now on, you have to stay by my side so that I can protect you, Lan Yu warned. I don't need your protection. Tang Jing flatly refused. Lan Yu stubbornly said, I know you are angry at me, and I also know that you are very powerful. However, the enemy cannot be underestimated. When they join forces, the explosive power will put you in danger. I have the responsibility and the obligation to protect you. Just treat this as making up for my mistake back then. Tang Zheng didn't appreciate her kindness and coldly said, there is no need. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. I have been like this for so many years, and I will be like this in the future. Chapter 5:30. Tang Dehai struggled to get out of bed and walked towards the door. Coincidentally, he saw Tang Zheng and nervously asked, Little Zheng, how did your talk go? Tang Dehai's heart was very complicated. He wanted Tang Zheng to follow the righteousness, but he was also afraid that he would abandon him. Tang Zheng hurriedly supported him and said, Grandfather, why are you getting out of bed? Go lie down. I'm fine now. Staying in the hospital is too wasteful and expensive. I want to go home. Tang Dehai said, but he looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. He was afraid that if he blinked, he would disappear from his eyes and he would never see him again. Seeing that his grandfather was indeed fine, he did not want to stay in the hospital during the new year. He nodded his head in agreement. Did you have a good talk? The old man was still concerned about this issue. We casually talked for a bit. Let's go home first. You're not going with her? Tang Dehai nervously asked. Tang Zheng was startled. He saw the panic in the depths of his grandfather's eyes and said, Why should I go with her? The old man let out a sigh of relief. His eyes revealed a gratified look. After all, the grandson that he brought up was a filial person. He would not abandon this lonely old man. As if relieved of a burden, the sympathy in his heart overflowed. He advised, She is your mother. You have to treat her better. Grandfather, don't worry about these things. I'll go pay first and then go home. Lan Yu walked to the door and said, The money has been paid. Tang Jing looked at her and did not say anything. He silently helped his grandfather out. At the door, Tang Dehai stopped and said, "You came all the way to Ordinary Balance. You don't have a place to stay. Come to our house." Lan Yu's eyes flashed with excitement. If she could spend time with Tang Jing, it would definitely be beneficial to improve their relationship. But when she saw Tang Jing frown, she immediately suppressed this idea. If she went to Tang Jing's house, he would definitely be unhappy. This would be counterproductive. Lan Yu smiled faintly and said, "Thank you, old master. Rest well today. I will personally pay you a visit tomorrow." "That's fine too. Outsiders are guests. If there's anything you need, please let us know. We'll definitely do our best as hosts," Tang Dehai said enthusiastically. Looking at the two of them walking into the elevator at the entrance of the corridor, Wu frowned and asked, "Master's wife, how was your discussion? Although it wasn't very pleasant, this is also a beginning. I have the confidence to make him accept me as his mother again." Lan Yu's face was suffused with a motherly radiance as she said confidently. Wu was a little dazed as he watched. He hesitated and asked, "Then should we tell Master about this?" Lan Yu's face darkened and said, "Absolutely not. If some people in the martial sect know of little Zheng's existence, then they will definitely not hesitate to assassinate little Zheng. Wu, you must remember this. Do you understand?" Wu's heart trembled as he nodded and said, "Don't worry, mistress. I will definitely keep my mouth shut. You can't even tell your master. Yesterday, he contacted me and asked me where I went. I only said that I was going on a sightseeing tour to relieve my boredom. Don't let it slip out of your mouth," Lan Yu warned. "Is there a need to hide it from master?" Wu was very conflicted. Ever since she was young, she had been taught to follow her master's orders and not hide anything from him. But now, master's wife wanted her to break the rules, which made him unable to accept it. Lan Yu stared straight at Wu and said seriously, "Wu, let me tell you, this matter is of great importance. Other than the two of us, even your master must be hidden from us." "But he's Tang Jing's father?" Lan Yu did not explain, but coldly snorted in her heart. She thought to herself, Xiao Zheng's disappearance all those years ago was related to him. Although she believed that her husband was a person who did not eat his own child, she still had a grudge in her heart. After that incident, a huge crack appeared in the relationship between the husband and wife. They were separated on the surface and had already lived separately. She took care of her own flowers and plants every day without any distractions. She did not care about what her husband was doing and would only occasionally say a few words. This was because she had always blamed her husband for not taking good care of the child. She had even thought that her husband was involved in this dirty matter. In order to smoothly inherit the position of sect master, he compromised with the old sect master and used his own child's life to protect the position of sect master. But no matter what the situation was, it was not easy to completely dispel her doubts. Seeing that his mistress did not reply, Wu was incomparably conflicted. In the end, he comforted himself that his mistress would not harm his master, so he was forced to agree. Li Palace. Li Xiaotian stared blankly at the information in his heart. He could not believe it and muttered to himself, "How could he not die? That cave is unfathomably deep. It's impossible for him to survive. What is the background of that towering tree? Why is it that every time Tang Jing sets foot in a place, such mysterious and unfathomable things will happen? Tang Jing escaped from death, so it won't be easy to kill him again." Suddenly, she said curiously, "Strange, why did Wu also run to the Ordinary Balance, and even run towards Tang Jing? What's strange is that he actually went with sect master's wife Lan Yu. It is said that Lan Yu has been in the martial sect for decades, never leaving the martial sect. This time, the sun must have risen from the west. She actually left the martial sect for Tang Jing. What is she doing?" Even though Li Xiaotian was meticulous and cunning, he still could not guess the reason. "Disciple, what's making you so worried?" Suddenly, a slightly old voice sounded from behind her. Li Xiaotian's entire body was startled. As if he had a spring, he immediately shot up from the chair, turned around to look at the person who came, and respectfully bowed. "Palace Master, you've come out of seclusion?" Yes, this time seclusion was very fruitful. What made you so worried? This kind of situation is rare. An old woman walked in from outside the door. She did not have a fierce aura, just like an old woman from the countryside. Her silver hair was coiled on top of her head, and she supported herself with a walking stick. She staggered over and sat on the chair. This was the famous palace lord of the Li Palace. In a different environment, if others saw her, they would definitely not associate her with the palace lord of the Li Palace, because she was too ordinary. Ordinary to the point that she could be submerged in a crowd, unable to stir up a single bubble. When the fearless Li Xiaonan faced this seemingly ordinary Li Palace master, he changed from his usual arrogance, and was as obedient as a little tabby cat. Reporting to Palace Master, this time I encountered a difficult problem. I originally thought that as a person, I would have no chance of surviving, but he miraculously survived. Li Xiaotian said in a deep voice. Oh, who has such great ability? Tang Zheng. I remember you mentioning him before. Yes, he is a cultivator and an extremely powerful one with great potential. Thus, I decided to eliminate him. Then it seems that you consider him a threat? Yes, an enormous threat. Li Xiaotian nodded. The palace master's old eyes slightly narrowed and said, For you to be so afraid, he is indeed not an ordinary person. Yes, even the martial organization's sect master's wife, Lan Yu, has gone to find him. Lan Yu? The palace master's hand holding the walking stick tightened involuntarily. She raised the corner of her eyes, and there seemed to be a flash of light in her dim eyes. Yes, this is the information I just received. It is said that Lan Yu, for the sake of Tang Zheng, went on a killing spree and caused a ruckus in the Dragon Group's base. At that time, if I had left a bit later, perhaps I would have met her. Li Xiaotian said. Lan Yu has not left the martial organization for dozens of years, but she actually made an exception for one person. Interesting. Pass down the order, we must investigate the ins and outs of this matter. Lan Yu, this woman, cannot be underestimated, and we must avoid alerting the enemy. I want to know what medicine she is selling in her gourd. Yes. In addition, I will be leaving for a few days. During this time, you will continue to take care of the daily affairs of the Li Palace in my place. The palace master warned. Li Xiaonan asked doubtfully, Palace master, why are you leaving the palace this time? Can this disciple go with you? The palace master casually glanced at her, and Li Xiaotian felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. It was as if 10,000 swords were hanging over her head, and could fall at any time and pierce her full of holes. She was in fear and trepidation, and hurriedly said, This disciple is concerned about the palace master, and has no other intentions. Just do your job well. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The palace master said coldly. Although she still seemed old and senile, and did not even have the slightest trace of a king's aura, Li Xiaotian felt fear from the bottom of her heart. This was because she was too clear about the palace master's temperament and powerful strength. She could not even think of resisting. Yes, this disciple will remember. The palace master stood up, supported herself with her walking stick, and hobbled out. Watching the palace master walk away, the chill on Li Xiaotian's body gradually dissipated. She straightened her body and returned to being the cold and black-bellied holy maiden of the Li Palace. Every year at this time, Master leaves the palace alone. No one knows what she's going to do? This secret truly makes one curious. I don't know when I'll learn of this secret. Li Xiaotian softly muttered to herself. The palace master left the Li Palace and walked on the mountain road. The rugged mountain road was like flat ground under her feet. With a casual tap of her walking stick, she traversed several meters, leaving behind only a shadow on the mountain road, and then floated down the mountain. 3 days later, she arrived at a mountain stream. A clear spring flowed down from the top of the mountain, forming a small lake. The lake water was clear, like a dark green gem. It adorned the mountains and added a quiet and secluded feeling, causing one to be intoxicated by the beautiful scenery of the lake and mountains. On a rock beside the lake, a person sat quietly. He wore a bamboo hat and a straw raincoat on his back. He was like a statue, motionless. His hand held a fishing rod, and a thin fishing line sank into the lake. However, there were no fish floating on the surface of the lake. It was unknown how he determined whether or not a fish had taken the bait. The Lee Palace master walked straight to the fisherman and stopped behind him. However, the fisherman remained motionless, as if he did not hear her footsteps. He stared intently at the lake. Chapter 5:31. The green light that swept towards Elder Angler was extremely sharp and powerful, bringing with it a series of sonic booms. The Lee Palace princess did not move, not even interested in looking at it, as if she knew that this azure light could not harm Elder Angler in the slightest. Elder Angler shook his wrist and used the fishing rod to block in front of him. The azure light struck the fishing rod, causing a burst of blood. With a sharp scream, the azure light hurriedly dove into the water. "Evil creature, I've been waiting for you for many days. Do you want to run away like this?" Elder Angler softly muttered as he swung the fishing rod back. The fishing line danced, and just as the azure light was about to sink into the water, it was fiercely smashed into the ground by the fishing line. This azure light was actually a large azure snake. Its two eyes glowed with a dark light, and its sharp fangs were glaring fiercely at Elder Angler. "Evil creature, you've recently injured quite a few mountain animals. Today is the day you die," Elder Angler lightly said. The large snake seemed to understand his words and struggled to swim into the lake. However, its upper jaw was hooked by the fishing hook and it could not escape. With a shake of the fishing line, the large snake lightly smashed into a sharp stone on the ground. With a clatter, its tongue was smashed into pieces, dripping with blood. It struggled for a while, but then it completely stopped moving. Elder Angler shook his wrist, and the fishing line quickly wrapped around the fishing rod. Only then did he turn his head to look at the Lee Palace master. Outsiders would involuntarily feel fear when facing the Lee Palace master, but Elder Angler did not move at all. His face was covered by a bamboo hat, so his appearance could not be clearly seen. However, there was no doubt that he was calm and fearless. The Lee Palace master looked at him and pointed at the corpse of the large snake, asking, "How did you have the leisure to come down the mountain to do such a small thing?" Elder Angler replied, "This is not a small matter. You don't leave the Lee Palace all year round, so you don't know that recently the world has not been peaceful. There have been many monsters." The Lee Palace master's eyes flashed with astonishment, asking, "This beast has not become a monster yet, right? Its intelligence has already been developed. Becoming a monster is only a matter of time. It's best to leave early to avoid future troubles." Elder Angler said, "I don't know what's going on in the world, but I heard that the Northeast is even less peaceful. Not only are there monsters, but also people are suffering. Is it really that serious?" Elder Angler didn't answer this question because it was too unnecessary. "Then have you sent someone to the Northeast?" Jian 13 has already gone. Jian Shursen, the sword god is finally willing to send out his beloved last disciple to carry out a mission. With him going, it will naturally be a piece of cake. The palace master clearly had confidence in this Jian Shursan. The sword god has been recuperating during this period of time. I believe you have also heard the news. He fought a great battle with that mysterious cultivator and suffered some injuries. Elder Angler said. It is said that the cultivator is called Tian Chanzi. Is the great lord not allowed to avenge the sword god and let him get away with it? The palace master asked curiously. Elder Angler raised his head slightly, revealing a scar. This scar extended from his left cheek to his right cheek, running across his entire face, making him look extremely terrifying. He glanced at the palace lord and said faintly, "The great lord is a great strategist. His every move has his own decisions. Actually, you and I can see through it." The palace master revealed an expression of reverence and said, "That is reasonable. We cannot recklessly guess the great lord's intentions. I will first go see the great lord, so I won't chat with you." The palace master lightly tapped the ground with his walking stick and flew several zhang away. He directly crossed the mountain stream and rushed towards the peak. "Let's go together." Elder Angler lightly spat out these two words. With a light shake of his wrist, the fishing line flew out and wrapped around a tree trunk. With a sudden swing, Elder Angler shot out like an arrow. In the next second, he was standing beside the palace master. The two of them displayed their respective abilities and climbed up the mountain peak that wasn't too majestic after a short while. At the peak of the mountain, the cold wind was biting cold and the ground was covered with white snow. A black hut stood at the peak of the mountain. There wasn't a single speck of snow on the black hut, which was particularly eye-catching in this vast white world. The two stepped on the snow without leaving a trace and arrived in front of the black room. The pitch-black door slowly opened on its own. Elder Angler stopped at the door while the Lee Palace master walked in step by step. The door automatically closed and the room sank into darkness. Whoosh, a flame rose into the air and several oil lamps lit up in the four corners of the room, illuminating the black room. This black room was not spacious and empty. It could be said that there were only four walls. Other than a chair at the very front, there was nothing else. A person walked out from the darkness and directly sat down on the chair. This person wore a mask and looked deeply at the palace master, saying, "You've come." His voice was desolate and deep, like the ripples of an echo in the valley. There was an indescribable, mysterious feeling. The Lee Palace master knelt down on one knee and respectfully said, "Greetings, great lord." If the people of the Lee Palace saw this scene, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. The palace master, who had always been high and mighty, was actually kneeling down to a masked person. Moreover, it was done willingly and respectfully. "Rise," the great lord said. "Thank you, great lord. You've gained a lot from this time's seclusion. You've actually reached the 8th level of the Great Master Realm. Perhaps, in your lifetime, you can break through the shackles of your body and usher in an unprecedented realm, Martial King." The great lord said with praise. The palace master's face revealed a trace of yearning and said, "This subordinate has always wanted to ask the great lord about something." "You want to ask what it's like to be a Martial King, right?" The great lord seemed to be able to see through her heart and asked. The palace master was not surprised in the slightest and said with satisfaction, "Yes. When you reach that realm, you will naturally know." The great lord said unfathomably. The palace master lowered her head and a trace of disappointment flashed across her face. "This time, I was about to give you a mission. I heard that something happened in the martial sect and I need you to go and deal with it." The great lord said. "What happened in the martial sect?" "You will naturally know when you go." The palace master did not dare to ask again. The world is getting more and more complicated. Even the tree of life has reappeared in the world. Are the cultivators really going to return? The great lord said to himself. "No way." The palace master's beautiful face turned pale. "The cultivators have been expelled. How can they return? Nothing is absolute. In the past, the cultivators could only be expelled because of the favorable conditions. Now the world has changed. It's no longer the same as before." The great lord sighed. "Is the great lord worried about Tian Chanzi and the 100 Faces Star Lord?" The palace master asked. "Tian Chanzi is not a threat. It's just a small matter. The 100 Faces Star Lord should be wary. After all, he is a figure from the Great Desolation era. As the saying goes, old people become shrewd. Don't be fooled by his childlike appearance. His threat is incomparable." The great lord said. The palace master said in a deep voice, "This subordinate's disciple has seen this person before. This person is temperamental and is indeed a troublesome guy. Not only is he troublesome, but he is also very smart. He did not rely on his powerful cultivation to rush out of the 10,000 mountains. Instead, he quietly lurked in the 10,000 mountains. Even I have no way of knowing what he is doing. This kind of person is indeed a formidable opponent. At first, I thought he would rush out and was prepared to deal with him. However, all of my plans fell through." The great lord said regretfully. "Do you want this subordinate to lure him out?" The palace master volunteered. "Hee, your little bit of skill cannot withstand a single blow from him. Why send yourself to your death?" The great lord chuckled. The palace master did not feel indignant because of this sentence. Instead, he said guiltily, "This subordinate is useless. My strength is not enough." "I don't blame you. Perhaps this is just my groundless fears." Back then, the martial sect leader had already eliminated the infant. Who else has the ability to let all the cultivators of the sky beyond heaven return? The great lord said suspiciously. The palace master's heart thumped. He could not help but remember the crisis a few decades ago. The martial sect's disciple gave birth to an infant. It was actually the rarely seen nine-yang saint body. From ancient times until now, the nine-yang saint body was a cultivation genius. A person with this kind of physique would undoubtedly become a powerful cultivator in the future. Many mysterious and powerful cultivators were not very worried about the return of cultivators because they were confident that no one could do it. However, they never would have thought that after the cultivators were expelled, there would still be someone with the nine-yang saint body in this world. This really made these powerful cultivators flabbergasted. Fortunately, this infant was known by the cultivators from the moment it was born. This was a fortune in the midst of misfortune. It allowed them to strangle this dangerous factor in the cradle. As a result, they did just that. They painfully made a move on an infant. Of course, the number of people in this world who knew of this matter could be counted on one hand. The palace master thought that the great lord was worrying too much. The infant was already dead. The crisis had already been resolved. "Great lord, when will you meet Wu Junshan? The Li Palace and the martial sect were originally your chess pieces. To not let Wu Junshan know of this secret, martial arts has always been outside. It is not beneficial for us to do anything. Soon. Don't look at how Wu Junshan is younger than you. He is more shrewd than you. If I don't see through him, I will not easily show myself. These past few years, I have been observing him. Those old people by his side have also been observing his every word and action. However, these past few years, he has not made any mistakes. Then isn't he worthy of our trust?" The great lord chuckled and said, "Actually, this time I asked you to go to the martial sect for this matter. The martial sect has sent back news that there seems to be a problem within the martial sect. It seems to be related to this sect master. I want you to go and investigate and remove any hidden dangers." The great lord ordered. This subordinate understands. Whether or not Wu Junshan can enter the great lord's eyes will depend on this. His opportunity is right in front of him. It all depends on what he chooses. The palace master said, "I hope he does not make the wrong choice. Otherwise, he will be consigned to eternal damnation." The great lord chuckled and declined to comment. The Li Palace master said his goodbyes and left the black room. The door closed once again. Elder Angler was still standing at the door. He glanced at her and said, "You're leaving just like that? I am not as idle as you. I have a life of hard work." The palace master made a rare joke. Chapter 5:32. Beijing. Su Yingtian saw Xing Feng. Xing Feng was very careful and ordinary people would not know where he was. Su Yingtian had to spend a lot of effort to see him. The two of them sat facing each other and Xing Feng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes, "Chief Su has graced me with your presence. Could it be that you have brought someone to take my life?" "I have no interest in your life," Su Yingtian said without any change in expression. Xing Feng did not care and coldly snorted, "Is that so? Then why did you bring Tang Jing to the base and cause my base to be destroyed? A soldier should do things openly. What kind of ability is it to capture someone's family to threaten them?" Su Yingtian said, This is the result of going against the dragon group. I want to kill the chicken to warn the monkey and let the world see. Moreover, he went against the dragon group, which is the same as going against the country. His family is the family of the criminal. What's wrong with me capturing him? You don't need to speak in such a dignified manner in front of me. Moreover, your dragon group does not represent the country. Don't blow your own trumpet. Su Yingtian retorted. You have caused the dragon group to suffer heavy losses and harmed the country's interests. I haven't even reported you and you have the guts to come find me. If you want to complain then go ahead, but I am here to tell you that if you still want to act alone and fight to the death with Tang Jing, then it won't be as simple as a base, but rather a disaster. When the time comes, the higher-ups will blame you. Not only you, but even the person behind you will be implicated. You should think it over clearly. Su Yingtian said without any trace of politeness. Xing Feng's face sank as he stared at Su Yingtian and said, "Are you threatening me?" "You are right. It is a threat," Su Yingtian said frankly. "You are going to support that brat and go against my dragon group? All I know is that Tang Zheng's actions did not threaten this country. Instead, it was your willful actions that brought this country into danger," Su Yingtian said fiercely. Xing Feng's expression kept changing as he stared at Su Yingtian. He wanted to see through his thoughts, but in the end he found that it was futile. With Su Yingtian's shrewdness, Xing Feng could not find any useful information. "Then what do you want? Let's mind our own business and walk our own paths. If you dare to have any ideas about Tang Zheng again, I promise you that I will show you the power of the National Security Agency. Don't think that the National Security Agency's decades of accumulation can be compared to your dragon group's dozens of days," Su Yingtian said without any trace of politeness. Xing Feng's eyes were about to spit fire, but he didn't act rashly. Judging from Su Yingtian's expression, he was telling the truth. Although Xing Feng was usually arrogant and didn't even put the National Security Agency in his eyes, he knew the capabilities of the National Security Agency. Just like what Su Yingtian said, the National Security Agency had been established for many years and its strength was unimaginable. It wasn't something that the Dragon Group could shake with just a few days of accumulation. "Okay, I promise you. But let me give you a piece of advice. It might not be a good thing to be associated with this brat. In the end, the National Security Agency might be destroyed in your hands," Xing Feng said coldly. "You don't have to worry about that." Su Yingtian stood up and left, not giving Xing Feng another glance. Seeing Su Yingtian leave, Xing Feng's face turned ashen. Suddenly, he roared in anger, "Fuck, surnamed Su, there will be a day when I will step on you and crush you into pieces." A small door at the side slowly opened, and a Westerner strolled out. He said with a smile, "Team Leader Xing, now you understand my good intentions, right? In Huaxia, if you want to have the right to speak, you need to have real power. Only the one with the harder fist can set the rules of the game. I can give you a hand and let your strength far surpass Su Yingtian." Xing Feng suspiciously looked at him and asked, "What's your purpose?" "Hee, I want to make friends with Group Leader Xing." "Make friends?" Xing Feng was also someone who had been in the government for most of his life. How could he believe such a blatant lie? The other party was the young lord of the Rockefeller family, Louis. He traveled thousands of miles to Huaxia, so why would he make friends with him and help him for no reason? "Actually, speaking of which, Team Leader Xing and I have a common enemy," Louis said as his eyes narrowed into slits. "Who?" "Tang Jing." Xing Feng suddenly understood. He knew a thing or two about the conflict between Tang Zheng and Louis, so he asked, "Oh, then what method do you have to get rid of him?" Louis said in a low voice, "Group Leader Xing, Tang Zheng is insignificant and can't do much. Our cooperation is the most important thing. If we don't get rid of Tang Zheng, our cooperation can't be discussed. Group Leader Xing really hates Tang Zheng to the core. All right, since he is our common enemy, then let's get rid of him quickly." Louis hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Xing Feng's lips curled into a proud smile, and he praised, "Now that's the attitude of cooperation. However, don't treat me like a fool. How do you want to help me? Tell me what conditions you want. If you don't say it now, I won't acknowledge it in the future." Group Leader Xing is a straightforward person. Then I won't hide it. I want the core technology of the mecha. "What?" Xing Feng was shocked. He hadn't expected the other to be so greedy and ask for such a condition. "This condition won't do. Change it." Louis shook his head and said arrogantly, "Group Leader Xing, this is my condition. Actually, in terms of technological prowess, the Western Empire is far superior to your Huaxia. This time, it was by chance that you obtained the mecha technology. Mecha technology is a national secret. How can we give it to you so easily? Xing Feng continued to refuse. Louis was unmoved. He smiled and said, Group leader Xing also understands that this technology is a national secret, so this technology won't have much practical benefit for you. Do you think I'm right? Xing Feng's expression changed. These words had hit the nail on the head. Louis sneered disdainfully in his heart. These bureaucrats were indeed the same. They were selfish and insatiable. As long as you poked the G-spot in their hearts, they would be at your mercy. They would not be able to withstand a single blow. In life, the most important thing is to fight for your own benefits. No matter how much benefits the government has, they will still belong to the government and not in your own hands. Sometimes, people still have to think for themselves. Louis purposely sighed meaningfully. Xing Feng's eyelids twitched. He stared at him with burning eyes and said, What do you mean by that? Louis smiled mysteriously and said, Group leader Xing is a smart person. Of course, you understand what I mean. It was very simple. Louis wanted Xing Feng to betray the interests of the country and gain personal benefits for himself. In other words, he was harming the interests of the country. No matter which country it was, there were many officials like this. The ambition in Xing Feng's bones had already taken root and sprouted. He wanted to take the dragon group for himself. Only when he had a strong power in his hands would others not dare to do anything to him. He didn't want to be a puppet for the rest of his life. There was no doubt that Louis's words had struck a chord in his heart, and he was hesitant. Looking at Xing Feng's fluctuating expression, Louis walked to the sofa and sat down. He crossed his legs and waited for Xing Feng. A long time later, Xing Feng abruptly turned his head and stared at Louis. What can you give me? I can let you truly control a powerful force, such as the dragon group. Louis said solemnly. What do you mean by truly controlling? Xing Feng asked. Let the dragon group become a blade in your hand. They will only listen to your orders and attack wherever you point. Xing Feng's heart leaped. Wasn't this the result that he had been waiting for? Although his control over the dragon group was already very strong, and even his adjutant, Kai Gui-bin, had been kicked away by him, he still couldn't control the dragon group. But when it came to major issues, an order from above would completely surpass his usual cultivation. No matter how much he tried to win people's hearts, there would always be someone who didn't listen to his orders at the critical moment. There were even some spies in the dragon group. If he did something overboard, some people would know. At that time, a single order could remove him from his position. Pinching him to death would be like pinching an ant. He understood this principle too well. Everything he had now was based on the support of his backer. Without this foundation, even if he built a skyscraper, it would be a castle in the air that could be destroyed at any time. But if it was really like what Louis said, and the dragon group became a blade in his hand, then no one would be able to take it away. Then his strength would not be affected by others. Wasn't this what he dreamed of? Although his expression was calm, his heart was already in turmoil. He asked, Words are not proof. I don't believe that you can do this. People's hearts are hard to predict. Don't tell me that you can bribe everyone? Group leader Xing, there are not many things in this world that are impossible. Isn't there a saying in your country? Nothing in this world is impossible for those who set their mind on it. I can tell you clearly that you can make everyone listen to your orders. Seeing that Louis did not seem to be joking, Xing Feng finally couldn't help but be moved. He curiously asked, How can it be done? You just said something wrong. We don't want to bribe everyone. We want to control everyone and make them treat you as their master. How can a servant go against their master's orders? Please tell me more details. Xing Feng lowered his voice and looked at the other side eagerly. Louis said in his heart, You finally took the bait. Without changing his expression, he said, Soul control technique. Control a person's soul and make them your slave. They will only listen to your orders. Of course, normally this person is no different from an ordinary person. But a seed will be planted in their heart. Xing Feng's body trembled. A chill ran from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. He asked, Is there really such a method in this world? Of course, I can teach you right away. This isn't martial arts, but magic, right? This is a secret technique. It doesn't have to be used by cultivators. Ordinary people like you and me can also do it. Xing Feng understood the power of the soul control technique. Looking at Louis, he had a fear of facing a devil. If he used this technique on himself, then wouldn't he also become a puppet? Of course, he didn't want to become a puppet. But if he didn't agree, then the other party might really become a puppet. He understood how vicious these Western people were. Moreover, this was also something he dreamed of. Thus, he clenched his teeth and nodded, "Okay, I agree." Happy cooperation. Chapter 5:33. Ordinary balance. In the streets and alleys, the atmosphere of the new year was getting thicker and thicker. It was already the 28th of December. Tang Zheng prepared to buy New Year goods. In the past, in order to save money, he and his grandfather lived a simple life every year. This time, he was prepared to do a good job. However, the only thing that made him feel that there were some flaws was that after Lan Yu personally came to visit his grandfather in the morning, the two of them muttered something. The old man suggested that Lan Yu stay for the new year, and Lan Yu happily agreed. Thus, this time, there was an extra Lan Yu to buy New Year goods, and Marshall was sent back to the Marshall organization by Lan Yu, allowing her to go back to the Marshall organization's sect master so that he would not worry. Marshall reluctantly gave Tang Zheng a few glances, as if to demonstrate to Tang Zheng that he should not go overboard and disrespect his master's wife. Tang Zheng acted as if he did not see it and ignored it. Marshall was so angry that he almost rolled up his sleeves and rushed up to fight with him. After Marshall left, only Tang Zheng and Lan Yu were left. In order to avoid awkwardness, he called out Fang Shishir. The three of them went to buy New Year goods together. Lan Yu always had a smile on her face as she looked at Tang Zheng with a gaze that seemed to be able to melt people, showing the demeanor of a loving mother. Fang Shishir secretly sized up the two of them and playfully stuck out her tongue. She understood that there was a grudge between the two that had not been resolved, so she obediently held onto Tang Zheng's arm and shuttled through the streets. "Little Zheng, Shishir, it's New Year. I'll buy you a few new sets of clothes." Lan Yu had an idea and gently said, "No need." Tang Zheng expressionlessly refused. Lan Yu looked at Fang Shishir for help, appearing somewhat helpless and pitiful. Fang Shishir's heart softened as she shook the arm in her embrace and advised, "This is also Auntie's kind intentions. You should just accept it." "Yes, I also want to buy a few sets for the old man. The old man has worked hard for so long. It's the end of the year, so he should buy a few sets of new clothes," Lan Yu said. These words struck a chord in Tang Zheng's heart. He glanced at Lan Yu and thought to himself, "You're quite considerate." Thus, he silently nodded in agreement. Lan Yu was overjoyed and gradually understood the position of the old master in Tang Zheng's eyes. The more he cared about the old master, the higher the impression in Tang Zheng's eyes. The few of them walked into a high-end clothing store nearby. Lan Yu took a fancy to a few sets of clothes at a glance. She casually pointed and said, "Take those clothes and try them on." The shop assistant could tell at a glance that these people were not in need of money. Since a big customer had arrived, she immediately began to serve them attentively. Lan Yu held a set of clothes and gestured at Tang Zheng's body, saying, "This one is not bad. Try it on in the fitting room." Tang Zheng glanced at the price and said, "There's no need to buy such an expensive one." "It's not expensive. Even if I bought all the clothes in this store for you, it wouldn't be expensive. Moreover, it's too little. Just tell me what you like. I want to make up for the decades of unfulfilled responsibilities," Lan Yu emotionally said. When the shop assistant heard these words, she looked at Tang Zheng with a gaze that was filled with stars. She thought to herself, just what kind of person is this handsome guy to have such a unique temperament favored by such a beautiful young woman? Having money to burn. Tang Zheng curled his lips and said. Lan Yu revealed an awkward expression, but she did not flare up. She continued to smile and said, "If you don't like this store, then let's go to another one. I also feel that this store's clothes aren't that great." The shop assistant's heart sank. Her big customer was ruined. This handsome guy was too hard to serve. Who did he think he was? In truth, this brand was already considered a luxury brand in the country. Many nouveau riches liked to choose this store's clothing. At the very least, the customers who were shopping at the side were dressed well. They were definitely not rich. When they heard Lan Yu's words, their expressions clearly did not look good. However, most of them did not flare up. They only glared at Tang Zheng with disdain. But there were exceptions to everything. A fashionable woman wearing sunglasses that covered most of her face curled her lips and disdainfully said, "What are you pretending to be poor for? If you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. You still have the nerve to come here and pretend to be rich." Hee, there are too many of these kinds of people in the country right now. It's no wonder that so many foreigners look down on Huaxia people. A man beside her laughed arrogantly. "Young Master Jun, you've been abroad for so many years. You must not be used to seeing such things when you return, right?" The woman in sunglasses looked up at the man and asked in a fawning manner. The man laughed arrogantly and said, "Of course. But the quality of the people in the country is so low. What can I do?" "That's right. As a fellow countryman of these people, I feel terrible," the woman in sunglasses said sweetly. Tang Jing wrinkled his eyebrows. He was already suppressing a wave of anger in his heart. These two people's slanderous words simply hit the muzzle of his gun. "If you can't stand it, then get out yourself. No one wants you to look. If you want to go abroad to be a dog, no one will stop you. Don't bark here and disturb people's peace," Tang Jing said in a bad mood. These words were like poking a hornet's nest. Originally, the two people were only prepared to be sarcastic and treat it as entertainment. They have already done this kind of thing many times. Most people would choose to swallow their anger, but Tang Zheng actually bluntly turned the tables on them. The two people were furious. The woman in sunglasses hugged the man's arm, her towering breasts continuously rubbing against him. She said sweetly, "Young Master Jun, what did you hear him say? He actually dares to scold us." The man's eyes flashed with an ominous light. He waved his hand outside the store. Two black-clothed bodyguards walked in and respectfully bowed to the man. "Young Master Jun, teach them a lesson. Let them remember in the future," the man ordered. The two large men like iron towers walked straight towards Tang Zheng's group. Without saying a word, their hammer-like fists smashed over. Tang Zheng coldly snorted. He was preparing to counterattack and teach the other side a lesson, but there was one person who moved faster than him. Lan Yu's feet slipped and blocked the bodyguard's path. She placed her hands on the other's shoulders and the two people flew out of the store like sandbags. They heavily fell on the floor, their heads broken and bleeding. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. This scene made everyone temporarily lose their ability to speak. They stared at Lan Yu dumbfoundedly. Her frail body couldn't be compared to the two bodyguards, but the strength she erupted with was truly terrifying. How could a young woman with an elegant temperament have such terrifying battle strength? The man was also stunned. His pupils couldn't help but shrink as he said, "Who are you?" Lan Yu turned a deaf ear to him and said, "You dare to scold my son? You're really tired of living? Then I'll do as you wish." Step by step, she approached the other side. The aura of Mount Tai pressing down on the other side made the other side's chest feel like a boulder was pressing down on them. Their faces instantly became as white as paper. The woman in sunglasses trembled. She desperately grabbed the man's arm and screamed in panic, "What are you doing? If you don't want to live, then die." Lan Yu stretched out her finger and lightly pointed. However, Tang Zheng could faintly hear the sound of wind and thunder. If they were hit, then with the two people's bodies, they would immediately lose their lives. He didn't expect Lan Yu's reaction to be so agitated. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. He didn't know that Lan Yu was very protective of her son. She had always blamed herself for not protecting her son well, resulting in the separation of mother and son for more than 20 years. So now she felt a little scared. If anyone dared to threaten Tang Zheng, she would definitely not show mercy. Not only did these two people speak rudely, but they also let their followers teach Tang Zheng a lesson. This was stepping on the high-tension line in her heart. Of course she was going to explode. Moreover, it was anger that had been accumulated over the years. How could these two people withstand it? Tang Zheng's eyelids suddenly jumped. Lan Yu really did not show any mercy. Although he also felt that these two people were repulsive, their crimes did not warrant death. So, he immediately shouted, "Stop." Lan Yu's fingers stopped in front of the two people. The two people looked like they had just returned from the gates of hell. Their bodies were dripping with sweat and trembling non-stop. Lan Yu turned her head to look at Tang Zheng and asked, "How do you want to deal with them?" "Their crimes don't warrant death. Just casually teach them a lesson," Tang Zheng said. Lan Yu nodded and said, "The two of you are lucky. My son is merciful and spared your lives. However, the death penalty can be avoided, but the punishment cannot be forgiven." As soon as her voice fell, 2 slaps rang out. Finger marks immediately appeared on the two people's faces. The sunglasses of the woman in sunglasses also fell to the ground and shattered, revealing her true face. It had to be said that she did indeed have a beautiful face. Moreover, it was very pure. However, compared to this pure face, her words and actions formed a contrast. Even if this kind of person had a beautiful appearance, it was still just a rotten skin bag. Wa Lu Yenran. So she is Lu Yenran. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out. Everyone's eyes quickly focused on the face of the woman in sunglasses. Fang Shishir also looked at the other person in shock. She covered her mouth and said in disbelief, "It's her. A big star." The woman in sunglasses quickly covered her face and shook her head in denial. "I'm not her. You've got the wrong person." She ran out in panic, but her feet slipped and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. Another cry of surprise rang out. However, she did not dare to stay. She crawled up and covered her face before continuing to run. Scram! Lan Yu glared at the man. The man felt as if he had been pardoned. He did not even dare to breathe loudly. He quickly rushed out, ignoring the unconscious bodyguards on the ground. "Is this woman very famous?" Tang Jing curiously asked. Fang Shishir said in disbelief, "Wah, you actually don't know her? Are you from another planet?" She is currently a popular A-list female star. She is known as the Fairy Sister and is the representative of the youthful Jade Girls. Tang Zheng curled his lips. He really did not care about celebrities in the entertainment industry. Before, he was wholeheartedly focused on his studies. How could he have the leisure to pay attention to these things? However, when he heard that this person was known as the Fairy Sister, the youthful Jade Girl, he could not help but snort. The entertainment industry was really a mix of bad people. If this kind of person could be called a youthful Jade Girl, it would be more appropriate to call her a lustful woman. Her temperament could not be compared to Ling. One was on the ground while the other was in the sky. If Ling enters the entertainment industry, she will definitely be able to beat this Lu Yenran. He was full of confidence. "That's right. I heard that her hometown is Ordinary Balance. So it must be her. This time we offended a big star. Will there be any problems?" Fang Shishir nervously asked. Chapter 5:34. Lan Yu heard this and said with a murderous look, "Daring to have any ideas about you, that is seeking death." When the others heard this, they were silent like cicadas in winter. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Many customers left the store one after another. Seeing the shop assistant's respectful eyes and not daring to breathe, Tang Jing could not help but feel bored. He held Fang Shishir's hand and walked out. Lan Yu hurriedly chased after them and suggested with a smile, "Let's go to another clothing store." When Tang Zheng walked into the fitting room with a set of clothes, Lan Yu let out a sigh of relief and muttered to herself, "This is the first time I've bought clothes for my son. I really am an incompetent mother." Fang Shishir advised, "Auntie, this is not your fault. There will be opportunities in the future." "But he did not forgive me," Lan Yu said with disappointment. Fang Shishir held Lan Yu's hand and said softly, "Let time heal this wound. He is actually a very kind person. He has seen and remembered all your efforts." Lan Yu smiled confidently and said, "Thank you, Shishir. You really are a good girl." Fang Shishir smiled faintly. The fitting room's door opened and Tang Jing walked out looking brand new. As the saying goes, Buddha relies on gold and people rely on clothes. Tang Zheng was originally a little handsome, but now his temperament had changed greatly. When he walked out, everyone could not help but feel their eyes light up. He was not shockingly handsome, but the temperament that was imperceptibly revealed made people feel deep respect and unwilling to look away. Too handsome. Lan Yu praised from the bottom of her heart. She subconsciously wanted to straighten his collar. When her hand touched his collar, the two of them were stunned. Because this action was too natural and too intimate. Tang Jing did not feel disgusted. Instead, he felt a faint warmth. Lan Yu nervously retracted her hand and said in a panic, "Sorry, I couldn't help myself." It was the most simple feeling of a mother for her son. It was human nature. Tang Jing kept a straight face and didn't say much. He straightened his collar and asked Fang Shishir, "What do you think?" Fang Shishir's eyes sparkled. To be honest, she and Tang Jing had known each other for a long time. She was very familiar with his appearance. But looking at the person she loved standing in front of her at this moment, she couldn't help but fall into a trance. This was completely different from the dull Tang Jing who only knew how to study in high school. Not only did his appearance change slightly, but his temperament was also completely different. If a former classmate saw him, they definitely wouldn't dare to recognize him. Of course, it was a good thing that her boyfriend had become more handsome and attractive. Fang Shishir smiled and nodded. "Very handsome. And he has good taste. This set of clothes seems to be tailor-made for you." When Lan Yu heard this, she also smiled like a flower. Then by it, Tang Jing glanced at the overjoyed Lan Yu and said expressionlessly. Immediately, Lan Yu became even happier. After visiting a few clothing stores, they all had their gains. They carried bags of various sizes, but Lan Yu clearly carried the most. This was because she snatched most of the bags from Tang Zheng's hands, as if she was afraid that Tang Zheng would be tired. If not for Tang Zheng's final insistence, she probably wouldn't even let Tang Zheng carry anything. Tang Zheng couldn't help but roll his eyes. This was simply spoiling. A loving mother spoiled the son. A child raised by such a mother was absolutely spoiled. "Where are we going now?" Lan Yu asked. Tang Jing stopped a taxi and the three of them sat in. Lan Yu rolled her eyes and said, "Little Zheng, I'll buy you a car. It'll be convenient for you to travel. What kind of car do you like?" "I'm a student. Why would I drive? I see that there are also students who drive. It's more convenient to have a car." "No need. Moreover, if I want to buy a car, I have the money to buy it myself." Tang Zheng was speechless. Lan Yu seemed to want to use sugar-coated bullets to corrode him. There were all kinds of branded clothes and cars. Did he become a rich second generation? He couldn't help but laugh. When they returned home, Tang Dahai was also back. During the Spring Festival, his recycle bin was temporarily closed for vacation. This was his last day of work. "Old man, these are the clothes I bought for you. Try them on." Lan Yu carried a few bags and handed them to Tang Dahai. Tang Dahai retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted and resentfully said, "How can this be? I'm an old man. Why would I wear those? It's a waste of money. No need, no need. It's not worth much. Oh man, just take it. You raised little Zheng and now it's time for you to enjoy life." Lan Yu said. Tang Dahai's eyes were a little red. He glanced at Tang Zheng and embarrassedly said, "I still have clothes. Why would I need to wear new clothes?" Tang Zheng was the clearest about his grandfather's situation. In the past, it was rare for him to buy new clothes. Many of them were washed until they were white. "Grandfather, since I bought it for you, just accept it," Tang Zheng advised. Hearing his grandson say this, Tang Dahai embarrassedly accepted the clothes and hurriedly thanked, "Then I really can't thank you enough. This is what I should do." Lan Yu's heart also softened. She thought that little Zheng was lucky to have met such a grandfather. The atmosphere eased a lot. Tang Dahai put away the clothes and conveniently left Lan Yu to eat. He then went into the kitchen to cook. Lan Yu also enthusiastically entered the kitchen, saying that she wanted to help the old man. The two sat on the sofa. Fang Shishir leaned into Tang Zheng's embrace and looked at the kitchen. She lowered her voice and said, "Auntie is pretty good." You don't have to be so cold to her. Don't get involved in this matter. Fang Shishir pouted and said, Mother and son are connected by heart. What kind of deep hatred can there be? Moreover, Auntie has always wanted to make up for it. You should give her a chance. Tang Zheng's expression did not change as he declined to comment. Fang Shishir glared at him and said, Stubborn. You don't know how to be flexible. My matter with her is too complicated. It is not something that can be fixed with just a few words. It is also not something that can be fixed with some small favors. Since there is a crack, then work hard to fix it. You can't always keep people 1,000 miles away. Fang Shishir retorted. Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked at her. He scratched her nose and suspiciously asked, Have you been bribed by her sugar-coated bullets? Nonsense. How could I be bribed? I have always been on the same side as you. I am only advising you. In the end, the one who makes the decision is still you. Creak. Suddenly, the door opened, interrupting the two of them. Linger skipped in, followed by a person. Me, hello boss. I am sending Miss Linger back. Me greeted Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng nodded. Looking at Linger, who was like a little magpie, his heart couldn't help but feel warm. He asked, Linger, how have you been these 2 days? Linger tilted her head, blinked her eyes, and playfully said, Linger is very happy and has also learned a lot of new knowledge. In the past, Linger thought that singing was easy, but now I find that there is a lot of new knowledge to learn. Me praised from the side. Miss Linger is talented and intelligent. Moreover, she is very talented in singing. Although she has never studied music systematically before, and it is a bit late for an ordinary person to cram for Buddha's feet at the last minute, for Miss Linger, this problem doesn't exist at all. She is a genius. She can learn any song sheet at a glance. Moreover, she has a photographic memory. She is the most powerful person I have seen in so many years. She is even better than the music genius Lu Yenran, who is now known as the Fairy Sister. Lu Yenran. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He remembered the scene in the clothing store. Since Linger wanted to enter the entertainment industry, then it was necessary for her to understand some of the people or things in it. Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, Me misunderstood and asked, Is the boss also a fan of Lu Yenran? If there is a chance in the future, I will ask the boss to meet her. She is a popular star and a typical representative of singing and acting. She has dabbled in singing, movies, and TV series. She is a real star with 3 lives. I heard that her contract with her old company is about to expire. If our company can sign her, then it will definitely be a good start for our company. Me thought that if she could sign Lu Yenran, then it wouldn't be long before her name as a gold medal manager would be known throughout the entertainment industry. Tang Zheng frowned and said coldly, My company will definitely not sign an artist like Lu Yenran. Me, who was immersed in joy, was stunned as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on her. She stared at Tang Zheng and asked, Why? If a person's character is not good, then even if she is popular now, my company does not need an artist with such a character problem. Tang Zheng said firmly. Me was very embarrassed and said, There are some rumors outside, but the flaws do not obscure the beauty. Her appeal is still very amazing. She is the target of many companies. Just a flash in the pan. Tang Zheng did not hide his disdain. Seeing the disappointment on Me's face, Tang Zheng's face sank. He looked at Me very seriously and said, Since you have joined my company, then I must seriously warn you that my company has a rule, and that is people with bad character should not even think about stepping into this door. Moreover, the unspoken rules of the entertainment industry do not apply to me, so you must change your way of thinking. Otherwise, sooner or later you will also pack your bags and leave. Although Me was a sissy, he wasn't stupid. He had mastered the basic skill of observing people's body language. Seeing the boss so serious, he didn't dare to talk back. He quickly changed his attitude and said, Boss, I understand. Although Lu Yenran is popular, she is also a troublemaker. The internet revealed that she had a fierce conflict with someone today and was even slapped in the face. Now the internet is in a heated debate. Her fans are thinking of ways to find the person who hit her. It is said that they want to take revenge for her. Tang Jing froze for a moment and looked at Fang Shishir. The person who revealed this must be someone from the scene today. But he did not think that those fans would want to take revenge for her and deal with the Wu Zong's sect leader's wife. Chapter 5:35. Looking at the strange expressions of Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir, Aimi thought for a while and asked curiously, "Boss, do you also know about this matter?" Tang Zheng smiled and pointed to Lan Yu's back, saying, "The person they want is right there." Looking at Lan Yu's graceful back, Aimi exclaimed and covered her mouth, saying, "It turns out that you were the ones who had a conflict with Lu Yenran today." Tang Zheng nodded, "I saw it with my own eyes. I have a deeper understanding than those fans who are deceived by appearance. I know that this kind of person can't stay popular for long." Aimi lowered her head in shame. She had just mistakenly thought that the boss was Lu Yenran's fan and flattered him. "Aimi, with your professional vision, do you think that Linger will replace Lu Yenran in the future?" Tang Jing asked. Aimi clapped her hands and said without hesitation, "Of course, Lu Yenran is not a fairy sister. Linger is the real fairy sister. She can definitely beat her." He paused for a moment and had an idea. His eyes lit up as he said, "Boss, I've thought of a brilliant idea. Why not just pick a day? Anyway, now that Lu Yenran's incident is making a ruckus, we can push out Miss Ling Air at this time. We can use this opportunity to shift everyone's attention to this new fairy sister. This way, we can achieve twice the result with half the effort." "Oh, will it work?" "It will definitely work. The Spring Festival is coming soon and people are on holiday. More and more people will pay attention to entertainment news and more people will pay attention to Linga." Aimi was full of confidence. Tang Zheng was not familiar with these methods. He was good at delegating power, so he nodded and said, "Okay, you can discuss it with President Mu." "Boss." Aimi nodded excitedly, "Boss, then I won't disturb you. Goodbye." After sending Aimi off, Linger looked at herself in the mirror and asked, "Master, that Lu Yenran is really beautiful, and her singing is also very good. Can I compare to her?" Tang Jing patted her head and encouraged her, "Linger, you have to remember that you are 100 times better than her. You have to have confidence." Linger raised her head and looked at Tang Jing. She smiled and nodded, "And Linger will remember this. Linger will definitely work hard." At this moment, Xing Feng was also working very hard, because he wanted to get the life-continuing pill before the end of the year and report to the people above. Therefore, he had already plotted with the Song and Chu family. Not only that, he had also borrowed the power of the Rockefeller family, and was prepared to use two methods to force the Yen family obediently to hand over the life-continuing pill. In the middle of the night, Yen Padian was woken up by urgent knocks on the door. If it wasn't for the fact that it was extremely urgent, no one would dare to knock on his door in the middle of the night and disturb his rest. The door opened and Yen Qishan impatiently walked in with a panicked expression. Yen Padian sat on the chair, glanced at his son, and frowned. "What are you panicking for? What happened?" He knew that his son had always been a calm person. Normal matters would never cause him to panic like this. "Father, something happened. Lu Yun was arrested by the police." Yen Qishan said. Yen Potion's expression did not change and asked, "Why was he arrested by the police?" "Drugs, a large amount of drugs were found in his car." Yen Qishan said indignantly, "Didn't our Yen family never touch that thing? Could it be that all of you have ignored my warnings?" Yen Padian was furious. Not only could drugs destroy a person, they could also destroy a family. Many nouveau riche or celebrity artists like to seek excitement from it, but for a large family like the Yen family, the people of the family were definitely not allowed to touch this thing. Seeing his father's anger, Yen Qishan hurriedly explained, "Father, Lu Yun will remember your teachings. He definitely did not touch this thing. Someone is framing him." Yen Padian calmed down. He was still very satisfied with this grandson of his, and understood that it was indeed impossible for him to risk the world's condemnation to do such a thing. However, someone dared to extend their hands so far to frame his grandson, Yen Padian. This made him have no choice but to be cautious. Have you found out who it is? Yan Qishan shook his head. Son is incompetent, I haven't found out yet. The police refused to negotiate. They were determined to make this an ironclad case. Father, could it be that the officials above want to touch our family? Yen Patian scoffed and said, no, if the officials above really want to touch the Yen family, they won't use such a small trick. Yen Qishan heaved a sigh of relief and said, in addition, our family's overseas industry seems to have been attacked by an unknown enemy, and a few factories have suffered losses. Yen Potion's pupils constricted and said, this is a two-pronged attack, one outside and one inside. Are you really determined to deal with our Yen family? No matter who this person is, he obviously came prepared. What exactly are they up to? Yen Qishan said worriedly. Your scheme is not small. No matter who it is, go and find out immediately. I want to see who exactly ate the guts of a leopard. Yen Patian said with a murderous aura. It's the middle of the night, the Yen family is very lively. Do you mind if I come and watch the show? A burst of noisy footsteps rang out as a group of people swaggered in. The person in the lead was Xingfeng. Yen Patian and Yen Qishan looked at each other. Their hearts were as clear as a mirror, and they immediately knew who the mastermind behind this series of actions was. Xingfeng, he actually went against the Yen family at all costs. Last time, he couldn't get the life-continuing pill, so he decided to use force this time. Many Yen family guards rushed out from all directions, surrounding this group of people in the middle. Their expressions were unfriendly as they stared at them covetously. Master, we can't stop them. The guard reported. Yen Patian waved his hand, dismissed the guards, looked at Xingfeng and said, Xingfeng, isn't your table manners too ugly to actually use such a clumsy method? Xingfeng walked straight to a chair and sat down. He said with a smile that was not a smile, I, Xing, have never cared about my methods. I only care about the results. So you're saying that you can do anything to achieve your goal, and even extort money? Yen Patian suppressed his anger and asked. Xingfeng fearlessly looked into Yen Potion's eyes and said, you can understand it that way. Yen Patian was bewildered and said, do you think that this will be enough to make my Yen family submit? You're underestimating the Yen family too much. I don't dare to underestimate the Yen family, so I've made ample preparations. In the third generation of the Yen family, Yen Luyun is the only child. If something were to happen to him, then wouldn't the Yen family be without descendants? Even if he had such a huge family business, who would he pass it down to in the future? It's really a pity that such a big family can't be passed down. This was indeed a fatal weakness of the Yen family. Yen Qishan was furious. Xingfeng, you are playing with fire, do you know that? If anything happens to Lun, I will definitely not let you off. Xingfeng snorted coldly and laughed. You want to kill me, right? Then please go ahead. I also want to know how the Yen family will deal with me if they kill me. Xingfeng was right, he was not a small soldier, but the person in charge of the dragon group. Even if the Yen family had a huge business, if they were to kill him, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. It would not be easy for the Yen family to have a perfect ending. Therefore, the Yen family would definitely not take this risk, which was why Xingfeng dared to be so fearless. Yen Patian obviously understood this point. He coldly stared at the unbridled Xingfeng and said, in the past, I only heard that you relied on the Long family's wings and were good at flattery. I never thought that you would have such methods and courage. You really hid it well. You flatter me. Xingfeng cupped his fists and said shamelessly, I know that you are seeking the life-continuing pill. If I don't hand it over to you, are you really going to kill my grandson? Yen Patian asked. You all know that I don't want this thing, but the people above. If I can't hand over the life-continuing pill, then I won't be able to keep this black hat on my head. Do you think I will take the risk and kill your grandson? Xingfeng said with a fake smile. Xingfeng could take the risk, but he did not dare to. If anything happened to Yen Luyun, then the Yen family would be extinct. Who would pass down such a huge family business to? This was a great disrespect to his ancestors, so Yen Patian could not do such a thing. Not only did you scheme to frame Luyun, You even attacked my Yen family's factory overseas. Your dragon group's hands are really long, even your overseas relations are so strong. Xing Feng snorted twice, but did not reply. If he did not have the secret help of the Rockefeller family, it would not be easy for the dragon group to threaten the Yen family's factory in the open sea. However, his cooperation with the Rockefeller family was a top secret, and no outsiders were allowed to know about it, so he did not pick up the topic. Yen Patian stared straight at Xing Feng, wanting to see through his trump card, but Xing Feng had hidden it deep enough, and for a moment, he really could not see through it. Have you two made up your mind? Time waits for no one. Many media outlets are already waiting outside the police station. As long as this explosive news is exposed, there will be no way to salvage it. Xing Feng asked, Father. Yen Qishan looked at his father. Yen Patian waved his hand, indicating for him to calm down, and instructed, Qishan, go and get 2 life-continuing pills. Father, you absolutely can't. The life-continuing pill is too precious. Yen Qishan did not expect his father to compromise, and hurriedly advised. Although the life-continuing pill is miraculous, it is still a dead object. My grandson's life is worth more than 2 life-continuing pills. Yen Patian said heroically. Seeing that the other party had compromised, Xing Feng was overjoyed. He pushed his luck and said, Back then, your family bought 5 life-continuing pills, and you only gave me 2 of them, and you want to settle the matter? Yen Patian raised his thick eyebrows, and with a bang, he slammed his palm on the wooden table beside him. With a kacha sound, the wooden table turned into pieces. Xing Feng, don't push your luck. Otherwise, I really won't let you walk out of my Yen family's door today. Yen Patian flew into a rage, his overwhelming aura causing Xing Feng's chest to feel suffocated. Xing Feng's heart skipped a beat. He knew that this was already the other party's limit. If he continued to force the other party, he could only fight to the death. Chapter 5:36. A moment later, Yen Qishan brought over 2 brocade boxes. 2 life-continuing pills that emitted a strange fragrance lay quietly in the brocade boxes. Xing Feng's eyes burned with passion as he swallowed his saliva. He really wanted to swallow it in one gulp. 1 pill was equivalent to 10 years of life. Even a fool would want such a great fortune. He angrily suppressed his restless thoughts and put away the life-continuing pill. He smiled proudly and said, Thank you. Farewell. Where's Lu Yun? Yen Qishan asked impatiently. Your son will naturally return safe and sound in a while. The overseas factory will also be safe and sound. With that, he turned around and left the Yen family with a group of people. Yen Qishan was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. He gritted his teeth and said, Father, who does this Xing Feng think he is? He dares to ride on top of our Yen family. This is too infuriating. However, Yen Patian gradually calmed down and said calmly, A tall tree attracts the wind. This is a principle that has never changed since ancient times. It seems that the Yen family has flourished for so long, but in the eyes of some people, it has become a big piece of fat meat. Everyone wants to take a bite. You're not afraid of knocking your teeth out. If our teeth are good, we might really be able to tear off a piece of fat from our bodies. Qishan, the world is about to change. Yen Patian sighed with emotion. No way, right? Yen Qishan exclaimed in disbelief. Hee, your senses are still too slow. Can't you see that the power of the officials has grown stronger and stronger over the years? In the past, they still had to rely on us, but now, they are deliberately distancing themselves from us. Didn't you notice that the officials who are familiar with us are all keeping their distance from us step by step? With his father's reminder, Yen Qishan seemed to have been enlightened and suddenly came to a realization. Father, if you didn't say it, I really wouldn't have noticed it. Now that I think about it, the officials who have been on good terms with us in the past 2 years have indeed been distancing themselves from us step by step. Therefore, the officials are playing a huge game of chess, slowly weakening the influence of our great families. In the early days of the country's founding, because the large families had sufficient manpower, financial and material resources, It was a huge fortune for this country that was lacking in resources. That was why the government tolerated our existence. Following the development and changes of the era, all of this will quietly change. This is the inevitability of the era. If you do not recognize this point, then it will definitely end in a tragedy. Yen Patian said resentfully. As the saying goes, when all the birds are gone, the good bough is hidden. When the cunning hare is dead, the hound is cooked. This had always been the case throughout the ages. Yen Patian was not sad, nor was he angry, because if it was him, he would have done the same. The strength of the various great families was enormous. If their influence was not weakened, then many of the decisions made by the government would not be carried out. If it were anyone else, they would take action. Of course, in this modern society, things were much gentler. They only weakened the influence. As long as you knew when to advance and when to retreat, there would still be a good outcome in the end. Father, could it be that handing over the life-continuing pill this time is a signal to the higher-ups? Yen Qishan asked as if he had understood something. Yen Patian looked at his son with admiration and said, "Smart, this is a signal to let the people above to be at ease with our Yen family and not to treat our Yen family as a thorn in their side. After all, our Yen family is the biggest among the few families, and it would be difficult for us not to become a target." Yen Qishan said indignantly, "Don't tell me we don't have any countermeasures? Just like that, we're at the mercy of others." Yen Patian laughed unfathomably. "The world is changing, who can say for sure?" Yen Qishan seemed to be deep in thought. Suddenly, his heart moved as he thought of Yen Qingyi's prophecy. He said in bewilderment, "Qingyi said that there will be a calamity in this world. When the time comes, the world will change and Tang Zheng will turn the tide. We maintain a close relationship with Tang Zheng, maybe we can use this opportunity to seek a turnaround." Immediately, Yen Qishan looked at his father with eyes full of worship. His father was indeed resourceful, and had already calculated this move. That was why he did not hesitate to offend the holy maiden of Li Palace to protect Tang Zheng. Now, it seemed that the decision back then was really too wise. He had prepared for a rainy day and fought for another possibility for the Yen family. Yen Potion's smile became even more unfathomable as he said, "We are unable to predict what will happen in the future. Let's do our best and leave it to fate. This time, Qingyi will go to the northwest to see that towering tree and see if she can gain anything." Yen Qishan nodded. From the looks of it, although his sister had never practiced martial arts before, she had fought for a lot of opportunities for the Yen family in this crucial matter. She had played a greater role than her brother. He couldn't help but be impressed by his father's foresight. When Yen Qingyi became a monk, he had truly become the laughingstock of many people, thinking that it was a great shame for the Yen family. Not only did her father not object, he even supported her outrageous actions. But now, it seemed that she did not have any cultivation in the martial way, but she was becoming more and more proficient in the mysterious art of foretelling the future. Qishan, from now on, our Yen family must be united in order to reverse the situation. Furthermore, we must remember that other than you and me, no third person is allowed to know about today's matter. Yen Patian warned sternly. Yen Qishan was shocked and hurriedly asked, "Are you not going to tell Lu Yun?" Yen Patian snorted and said, "Although he is innocent, he has fallen into the enemy's trap. Thus, in short, his experience is still too lacking, and he needs to sharpen it a little." Yen Qishan sighed inwardly, but he had no way to refute his son. After all, Yen Luyun had indeed caused the Yen family to fall into a passive situation this time. Speak of the devil. Yen Luyun walked in with his head lowered, looking rather miserable as he called out nervously, "Grandfather, Dad, I'm back." Yen Qishan frowned and shouted angrily, "Look at what you've done." This time, the Yen family suffered a huge loss in front of Xingfeng and lost 2 life-continuing pills. Yen Luyun turned pale with fright and said, "How can you give him such a precious life-continuing pill? If you don't give it to him, will you be able to come back safe and sound?" Yen Qishan reprimanded in annoyance. Actually, Yen Qishan was quite satisfied with this son of his. Yen Luyun was not like the rich second generation of the other families, who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. He was undoubtedly the #1 figure among the young masters in the capital. For me, you actually lost 2 life-continuing pills. It's not worth it, Yen Luyun said in shame. Yen Potin smiled faintly and said, life-continuing pills are just dead objects in the end, and you are our grandson. Of course, your life is not something that 2 life-continuing pills can compare to. Seeing his grandfather say that, Yen Luyun was even more ashamed and dejected. It's all because Lu Yun is useless. Raise your head. Yen Potin shouted, it's just a small setback. Could it be that I've knocked you down? You have to remember, you are a son of the Yen family. How can you admit defeat so easily? Yen Luyun's mind shook. He raised his head, his gaze firm. Yes, Yen Luyun will remember grandfather's teachings. You were framed this time. Do you know who did it? Yen Potin asked. A fierce glint appeared in Yen Luyun's eyes, and he said coldly, of course I know. What should I do? You know, right? Yen Luyun nodded. Yen Luyun understands. Although the Yen family had compromised with Xingfeng, it did not mean that the Yen family could be framed by others. The one who framed Yen Luyun this time was also a rich family's son, who usually had a good relationship with Yen Luyun. Yen Luyun was not on guard at all, which was why he was caught off guard. Towards the other party's betrayal, Yen Luyun hated him to the bones, so of course he would not let him off easily. As for how Xingfeng had bribed the other party, he did not care. Actually, this was not because Xingfeng had bribed the other party, but because of the work of the 2 young masters, Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng. They understood these hedonistic sons better than Xingfeng, so they were very clear about their weaknesses and hit them with a single strike. Yen Luyun's anger was obviously not something that could be extinguished so easily. That night, he started his crazy revenge. In the end, the young master's sports car was found to have fallen off a cliff, and the car was destroyed and he died. Some people who knew the details naturally guessed that all of this was Yen Luyun's revenge, but no one stood out to criticize him, because this was the fate of a pawn. As for the other party's family business, it also suffered a thunderous blow. Not long after, it was completely defeated, beaten down to the mortal world, and shattered into pieces. Tang Zheng, who was thousands of miles away, did not know of these matters, nor did he know that the Yen family had already made him their most important partner, thus replacing the position of Li Palace. The night was dark and the wind was strong. Tang Zheng stood alone at the peak of the back mountain of Ordinary Balance Mountain. The ground was faintly covered in white snow, and there were few people around. The surroundings were pitch black, and the silence was frightening. Overlooking the cliff below, the past was vivid in his mind. The first time he had refined the life-continuing pill was here, and the heaven-fragrant flower was also picked on this cliff. Thus, this place left him with too many memories. Standing here once again, he felt completely different. Looking at the 10,000-foot cliff below him, and the Ordinary Balance courtyard not far away, a heroic feeling arose spontaneously. Ordinary Balance Mountain had witnessed his rise step by step, and he would definitely walk higher and further from here. Looking at the lights of the Ordinary Balance courtyard, his heart stirred. In the past, he had instructed Lin Hu and the others to completely destroy the Ordinary Balance courtyard and then replace it. After all, this was Chongheng Resort, and it was the benchmark of the entertainment industry in this area. It was a place that the rich liked to visit the most, and if Tang Zheng wanted to become strong, then he had to step on this eyesore. However, before Lin Hu could carry out his plan, he encountered Xingfeng. Since he had returned this time, he would take advantage of the Spring Festival to get rid of this stumbling block. However, his goal tonight was not the Ordinary Balance courtyard, but another important mission, to refine the Dragon Origin Pill. In the past, the Dragon Origin Pill he refined used the blood of the 5-clawed golden dragon, so its power was especially tyrannical. But this time, he did not have the blood of the 5-clawed golden dragon, but he had a substitute, the blood of the flood dragon, the fruit of victory after killing the flood dragon in the Dragon Palace. In fact, it could be said that this time he was refining the real Dragon Origin Pill, because the original Dragon Origin Pill used the blood of the flood dragon, and not the blood of the five-clawed golden dragon. He deliberately chose to come to this mountain peak in the middle of the night in order to avoid attracting the attention of others when refining the pill. Chapter 537. Tang Jing gently waved his hand and the 9 revolving pill furnace flew out of his sumaru bag and steadily landed on top of the mountain peak. The 9 revolving pill furnace was a mysterious great magic treasure and it emitted a mysterious aura in the night. He had already prepared the medicinal ingredients and placed them into the cauldron. Then he focused his mind and calmed his breathing as he circulated the ancient clear heaven scroll. A second-grade true fire emerged from his fingertips. The purple flame appeared somewhat enchanting in the night sky. It danced with the wind like a flame spirit dancing on his fingertips. Now his control over the true fire was very good. Although the true fire had only reached the second-grade realm, it was enough for normal alchemy. Looking at the flame on his fingertips, his heart was moved. Since he had enough flood dragon blood essence, he could refine a large amount of dragon origin pills. Not only for himself, but also for the people around him. Because the enemy was getting stronger, in addition to arming himself, he also had to arm others. In the future, he would have to refine pills frequently. The 9 revolving pill furnace and the true fire were especially important as both of them had to be upgraded. The 9 revolving pill furnace was originally an earth-grade magic treasure and was a rare alchemy treasure. Now that it had been restored to the mysterious grade, it was only a step away from its peak state. I must find a way to upgrade it. Tang Jing made up his mind. In addition, the true fire in his body was a second-grade true fire. There were a total of 6th-grade true fires, so his true fire was still weak and there was still a lot of room for improvement. However, this was not something that could be improved just because he said so. He still had to carefully ponder over it. He calmed himself down and with a flick of his finger, the second-grade true fire flew into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace and enveloped the herbs, burning and tumbling them. He continuously formed seals and one by one he sent them into the 9 revolving pill furnace. The aura of heaven and earth suddenly changed and the spiritual qi in the air was sucked into the furnace. Tang Jing was slightly surprised. Looking at the chaotic aura of heaven and earth, he muttered to himself, "The spiritual qi of this ordinary balanced mountain peak is much richer than before. What is going on?" He frowned. A change in spiritual qi was not a simple matter. There must be a reason for it. Suddenly, he thought of something. Could it be because of the Tree of Life? Linga had once said that the Tree of Life could improve the air quality and replenish the thin spirit qi. Could this be the result of the Tree of Life's transformation? He felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. One had to know that the Tree of Life had only appeared for a few days, and it had already improved the spirit qi of heaven and earth so quickly. He had no choice but to re-evaluate the Tree of Life. This towering tree was far more miraculous than he had imagined. The Tree of Life contains such powerful spiritual energy. If I cultivate under the tree, I will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. This was truly too tempting. No cultivator would be able to resist this kind of heaven-defying temptation, and Tang Jing was no exception. I must go there after the new year to see if I can gain anything. He secretly made up his mind. A large amount of spiritual energy was sucked into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. Once the second-grade true fire came in contact with the spiritual energy, it burned even more vigorously and illuminated the interior of the furnace with a sparkling purple light. Time passed little by little. The medicinal properties of the herbs were extracted and turned into a large liquid ball. It was wrapped by the true fire and was constantly rolling. The impurities in the medicinal dregs turned into gas and soared into the air before dissipating with the wind. Flood dragon blood. Tang Jing shouted. A mass of flood dragon blood wrapped in true qi flew out from his sumaru bag and was directly thrown into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. Boom! It was as if the flame had encountered an accelerant. It soared into the sky, turning the entire mountain peak purple. The 9 revolving alchemy furnace also began to rapidly revolve. In the end, a vortex formed above the alchemy furnace. The spiritual energy of the world was rapidly sucked in, and a strange fragrance began to spread out from the furnace. As the sky gradually brightened, the furnace stopped rotating. The thin layer of snow on the mountain peak had completely melted. The grass and trees were nourished and glowed with vitality. 15 Dragon Origin Dawn. Looking at the golden pills in the furnace, Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Last time, he used the 5-clawed golden dragon blood to refine 10 Dragon Origin Dawn. This time, there were 15 Dragon Origin Dawn, 5 more than last time. Regarding this, he was not surprised. The Dragon Origin Dawn refined by the 5-clawed golden dragon were too overbearing, so he could only refine 10. But this time, he was able to refine 15 Dragon Origin Dawn. These were the true Dragon Origin Dawn that could be directly consumed. It was not like before where he could only consume them under certain circumstances. Otherwise, there would be a danger of his body exploding. He carefully put away the Dragon Origin Dawn and floated down the mountain. His speed was very fast, and soon he arrived in front of the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. The Ordinary Balance Courtyard was currently being decorated to add a festive atmosphere. Lin, who had once said that before the holidays, the Ordinary Balance Courtyard would earn a lot of money. Even the Spring Festival was no exception. This was because many people liked to invite guests to the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. This place represented a kind of class and could increase the host's face. Although the Ordinary Balance Courtyard was filthy, it had a good reputation among the upper echelons. Many people even brought their families here to enjoy themselves. It could almost satisfy the needs of customers of all ages. Looking at the busy Ordinary Balance Courtyard, Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light. He sneered, "I'll let this place be glorious for a few more days. After the Spring Festival, I'll come back to clean up this mess. Song Yu, you secretly made things difficult for me, so I won't let you have an easy time. I'll start with the Ordinary Balance Courtyard." On the 29th of December, every household was busy. Tang Zheng was no exception. He put up Spring Festival couplets and cleaned up. He was extremely busy. This was the first time that Ling had experienced such things. She was so excited that her face was red. She was busy here and there. Everything was new to her. AI, if only Nana was here. She would definitely be very happy to see so many fun things. Ling said with some disappointment. In the past few days, she had met with Nanan. These two girls seemed to have a tacit understanding of each other and were able to get along very well. There were many times when they would get together and play together. There was no need to mention how happy they were. Therefore, when Ling saw so many novel things, she thought of her good friend. Although Ling was physically mature, she was inexperienced. Her mind was not mature. She was equivalent to a 10-year-old child. Hearing her mention this, Tang Zheng's head slightly moved. Mu Hongyan and Nana were alone in the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. When the Spring Festival came, it would be very lonely. Anyway, the Spring Festival was lively. He might as well call them home and have a happy Spring Festival together. When Tang Zheng proposed this to his grandfather supported it with both hands. When people were old, they wanted to have fun. Tang Zheng immediately contacted Mu Hongyan. The phone rang a few times before the other party picked up. "Tang Zheng, what's the matter?" "Sister Mu, what are you busy with?" "I'm still refining various business plans. These things will be needed after the Spring Festival. They can't be delayed." Mu Hongyan said seriously. Tang Zheng was shocked and asked, "You're still working?" Mu Hongyan was a free person. Tang Zheng left everything to her to manage. He did not expect her to work so hard. It was already the 29th of December and she was still working. "I'm at home," Mu Hongyan said with a smile. "It's the Spring Festival. Aren't you going to accompany Nana? She's playing by herself. It's fine." "Then how are you going to celebrate the Spring Festival?" "I'm not prepared." Mu Hongyan told the truth. In the past, she had always spent the Spring Festival in the Long family. It was very lively, so she did not need to worry about these things. "Sister Mu, don't work anymore. Today, your first task is to accompany Nana and go shopping for clothes or other things. You should at least take a break at the end of the year. Tomorrow, you guys come to my house early to reunite and have New Year's Eve dinner together. Tang Jing said without hesitation. There's no need. There's a need. Sister Mu, I'm the boss. This is my order. You have to follow it, understand? Tang Jing took out the posture of a boss and said firmly. Mu Hongyan laughed involuntarily. Don't all bosses want their employees to work hard? Where would you encourage your employees to be lazy? Let's strike a balance between work and rest. Now that you're tired, who will work for me in the future? I'm thinking far ahead. I'm serious, don't work today. The Spring Festival is too important for children. Don't neglect Nana. Tang Jing said earnestly. Mu Hongyan turned her head and looked at her daughter who was playing alone. Her heart softened and she said, All right, I won't be polite with you. Tomorrow I'll bring Nana to your house. There were guests coming, so Tang Jing specially went to prepare children's toys and snacks. After being so busy, the sky turned dark. The few of them tidied up and fell asleep, conserving their energy for tomorrow's Spring Festival. As night fell, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew in from the window. Immediately, the room became even darker. It was as thick as ink. On the bed, Tang Dahai was lying quietly. His breathing was even and steady. It was obvious that he was sleeping soundly. Two shadows suddenly appeared in the darkness. These two shadows merged into one with the darkness. It was almost impossible to distinguish them from each other. The black shadow floated to the front of the bed and stared at the sleeping Tang Dahai with wide eyes. Is it him? Suddenly, one of the black shadows asked. The other black shadow nodded. It's him. The first person who increased his lifespan was him. The source of the problem must be him. Then should we detain his soul and interrogate it? The Ghost King ordered us to get to the bottom of this. If we can't find anything, then us two brothers will suffer. So we can't care too much and detain his soul for interrogation. Humph, a person can lie when they are alive, but a soul can't lie. We'll know once we ask. But I'm afraid his lifespan will be damaged. His lifespan was already at its end. I don't know what method he used to extend his lifespan by so much, but he even gained 10 more years of lifespan. How preposterous. Even if something really happens to him, he deserves it. He only has himself to blame. The higher-ups won't blame us, right? What's there to be afraid of? When we return his soul, he won't die. Us two brothers can still guarantee that he will live for another 10 years. Humph, but these 10 years I'm afraid he will be seriously ill in bed like a living dead. But as long as he doesn't die, no one will pursue us. Chapter 5:38. The two shadows reached a consensus. One of them took out a bell and shook it. However, the bell didn't make any sound on purpose. However, a mysterious aura spread out and enveloped Tang Dahai. A shadow slowly floated up from his body as if it was about to leave. Bang! Suddenly, with a muffled sound, the door was fiercely pushed open. Tang Jing stood at the door and angrily shouted, "Stop!" The two shadows were shocked and hurriedly stopped. The shadow on Tang Dahai's body returned to his body and merged with him. Tang Jing's heart jumped. If he was late, his grandfather would have been killed by these two guys. Fortunately, he was sleeping in the living room, which was very close to his grandfather's bedroom. When he heard a little movement, he rushed in. "Ah, he can see us," cried the black shadow in panic. "Of course he can see. What are you?" Tang Jing did not ask who they were, but what they were. This was because he had already determined that they were not human. The yin qi on their body was very dense and was quite rare. If Huang Ziang or War Spirit were here, they would definitely like this dense yin qi. After Huang Ziang returned to the ordinary balance, he was placed in a special place by Tang Jing. War Spirit and the two shooting sun arrows were still in the hands of the martial organization's sect master. The shadow looked at Tang Jing in disbelief and asked, "Who are you? How can you see us?" "You just wanted to hurt my grandfather, right?" Tang Jing asked sternly. One of the shadows had an idea and shouted, "I know, he is a cultivator." He is not a cultivator of this world. He has been expelled. How can there still be? Seeing that the other party did not answer, Tang Zheng's face turned ashen. With such a big movement, the old man did not wake up. Then there must be a problem. In addition, Tang Zheng gradually smelled a familiar aura from the other party. It was the aura of the ghost realm. He had dealt with the ghost realm visitors several times. He was even chased by a ghost general. But the yin qi on the two was obviously stronger. If he really was a guest from the ghost realm, then he must be in existence more powerful than the ghost general. The ghost realm suddenly came here, which meant that something must have gone wrong, and it was related to his grandfather's safety. If he didn't get to the bottom of this, Tang Zheng wouldn't be able to sleep. Since you don't want to talk, I'll capture you and slowly interrogate you, Tang Zheng said sternly. His figure flashed and pounced on the other party. The other party was enraged and roared, "How dare you, a little Xiuzhi dares to oppose our ghost marshal, today will make your soul scatter." Ghost marshal. Tang Zheng remembered this term. Since they were ghost marshals, they were definitely stronger than ghost generals. Facing two ghost marshals, he didn't know if he had the confidence to win. Furthermore, this was a residential area, so many divine abilities could not be used, such as the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows. If they were to be used, then this building would be almost destroyed. Therefore, Tang Zheng used his hand as a sword and quickly thrust it out. Before the first move was over, the second move was up, and the third move was dazzling, as if there really was a sharp sword in front of his eyes that was attacking him. The ghost marshal was not a fake either. He could tell with a single glance that Tang Zheng was not an ordinary cultivator, he was extremely powerful. The two of them shouted at the same time, "How dare you!" Two black lights soared into the sky, directly meeting Tang Zheng's attack. The two sides immediately began to fight, flashing and moving about in this small space. The furniture was destroyed one after another, and the ground was in a mess. In the end, only the bed that Tang Dehai was sleeping on was intact. In order to protect his grandfather from being implicated, Tang Zheng's strength was reduced by a few points, and it was hard to tell who would win. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. Since such a powerful cultivator has appeared by this old man's side, then perhaps the matter of extending his lifespan is related to him, or perhaps he knows the details. Once we capture him, we can report to the Ghost King. A ghost marshal said excitedly, as if he had discovered a new continent. That makes sense. In order to avoid any trouble, we have to take him down quickly. The other agreed readily. The two of them looked at each other, and as if they had a tacit understanding, they suddenly sped up. In the blink of an eye, the room was filled with gusts of cold wind, as if they were in a ghost realm. The cold wind roared angrily, as if there were thousands of vengeful spirits coming to claim their lives. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits by this scene, but Tang Zheng was filled with killing intent. He was completely unaffected by the yin qi, and started to attack. Suddenly, a strong gust of cold wind blew, and a green face and fanged ghost head bit towards Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng's finger poked upwards, hitting the ghost head, and the ghost head exploded, turning into balls of black light. However, before Tang Zheng could heave a sigh of relief, a biting cold wind blew from all directions, and 8 ghost heads attacked Tang Zheng at the same time. There were green-faced and fanged ghost heads in front of him, and they were extremely terrifying. Tang Zheng stabilized his mind. With a thought, he took out the dragon-trapped rope. Although he was unable to use the heaven-shocking bow, the dragon-trapped rope was still useful. With a shake of his arm, the dragon-trapped rope drew a circle and wrapped around the 2 ghost heads in front of him. With a sudden force, the ghost heads exploded. The other 6 ghost heads had already arrived behind Tang Zheng, their eyes emitting a green light, as if they would immediately bite off a piece of flesh from Tang Zheng's body. "Master, what happened?" Suddenly, Linger walked to the door and turned on the light switch. The room immediately lit up. When she saw this scene, she immediately covered her mouth in shock and almost screamed. She shouted in panic, "Who are you? I won't allow you to hurt Master." As he spoke, he rushed towards a ghost head. As if the ghost head had a mind of its own, it changed its direction and directly bit her body. "Be careful." Tang Jing shouted in shock. This ghost head was not simple, it was condensed from yin qi and evil qi. If it was bitten, then these qi would enter the meridians and cause great harm to the human body. Linger pouted, her pink face was fiendish, she was not afraid at all. Instead, she rushed forward a few steps and said angrily, "You are not allowed to hurt Master." Just as the ghost head was about to touch Linger's skin, suddenly, a green light was emitted from her body. When the ghost head touched the green light, it immediately disappeared into thin air. Seeing that Linger was safe and sound, Tang Jing finally heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, ever since Linger had transformed into a human, he had never asked about Linger's strength. This time, seeing that the ghost head could not gain any advantage in front of Linger, he secretly guessed that although Linger was innocent, her instincts were not weak. Taking advantage of this gap, the dragon-trapping rope was like a nimble dragon, constantly churning. In an instant, the remaining 5 ghost heads were eliminated. Linger, take Grandpa out, protect Grandpa. Tang Jing anxiously ordered. Master, Linger wants to protect you. Linger volunteered. They can't hurt me, Linger. Your task is to protect Grandpa. Linger pouted. She seemed to be distressed and regretful that she could not protect Grandpa, but she did not object. She supported the unconscious Tang Dehai and stepped out of the house. Shangxian, do you need my help? Gui Qiansui also staggered to the door, but Xiaobai was lying on its back, too lazy to move. It raised its head and looked at the 2 ghost commanders, as if it had no interest, and lazily lay down again. Since absorbing the magma in the cave, Xiaobai had turned into a ball, inconvenient to move, and also became lazy. Finally, after discovering Gui Qiansui, this free mobility tool, it did not even need to walk, and spent most of its time lying on Gui Qiansui's back, letting it carry it. Regarding the little guy's mischievous appearance, Tang Jing had no choice but to let it do as it pleased. At this moment, seeing its dull appearance, which was completely different from its previous aggressive temperament, he could not help but find it funny. You all step back, protect Grandpa and Linger, I can deal with the 2 of them alone. After a period of fighting, Tang Jing gradually figured out the strength of the other side. These 2's fighting strength was indeed higher than the ghost generals, but after Tang Jing had the help of the dragon-trapping rope, it was obviously impossible for the other side to escape. The 2 ghost commanders also saw this point, so their expression became nervous. The 2 looked at each other and nodded, as if they had reached some kind of tacit understanding. Then, one of them took the lead to rush towards Tang Jing, and with a wave of his hand, several ghost heads flew in front of him towards Tang Jing. The other one took out a token. The token flashed with a black light, and the air fluctuated violently. Gotcha! It was as if the space was torn apart, and a black door suddenly appeared. There was not a trace of light behind the door. It was as dark as ink, and it was impossible to see what was behind the door. However, a dense yin qi drifted out from behind the door, causing people's hearts to tremble violently. Tang Jing recognized the door at a glance and exclaimed, "Ghost Gate." Seeing that Tang Jing recognized the Ghost Gate, the 2 ghost commanders' eyelids twitched. The average person did not have such knowledge, so they were certain that the increase in lifespan was definitely related to this cultivator, so they could capture him and report back. Want to escape? No way. Of course, Tang Jing could not let these 2 escape, otherwise, what would happen if the ghost realm sent more powerful experts? Moreover, he still had not figured out what was going on. Why would the ghost commanders come to find Grandpa? Didn't Grandpa still have 10 years of lifespan? Now was not the time to reap souls, and it was even more impossible to let these 2 ghost commanders become soul reapers. There was something fishy about all of this. With a wave of his hand, the dragon-trapping rope shot down several ghost heads, and Tang Jing leaped, attacking the ghost commander near the Ghost Gate. He had to tie him down and prevent him from escaping back to the ghost realm. If that happened, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to pursue him. The ghost commander seemed to be scared silly, seeing Tang Jing attack. He stood motionless in place, as if waiting for Tang Jing to attack. With a wave of the dragon-trapping rope, it immediately wrapped around the opponent, but the ghost commander rushed towards Tang Jing, opening his arms and hugging Tang Jing's waist. Tang Jing felt a chill in his heart. What was going on? Before he could understand, he felt his back tighten. The other ghost commander had also pounced over, hugging him with both hands, one in front and one behind. The two of them were like drowning people grabbing onto a life-saving straw, not letting go no matter what. Then, carrying Tang Zheng, they flew into the ghost gate. Chapter 539. There was darkness in front of him, but soon, a ray of light entered his eyes. Tang Zheng could finally see his surroundings clearly. This was another world. It was incomparably dark, and the sky was also dark. This was definitely not the night, but another world. The dense yin qi reminded Tang Zheng that this was the ghost realm. This was the final resting place of the dead, and definitely not a place where a living person like him should go. The yin qi was like little worms that devoured his life, trying to drill into his body and kill him. He felt a chill in his heart and subconsciously circulated the ancient scroll of Tong Tian. The warm true qi flowed through his 8 extraordinary meridians and drove away the yin qi that wanted to invade his territory. His waist loosened, and the two ghost commanders jumped back, eerily laughing. No matter where you come from, coming to the ghost realm means that you're already dead. Hey, now you're at our mercy. Tang Zheng shivered and said, I'm standing in front of you alive. How am I dead? You're not dead right now, but you will be very soon. The ghost realm is a place where ghosts come from. You brought your body here, and it won't be long before the yin qi corrodes your body, tormenting you to death. Then we'll capture your ghost and report back to... Report back? What report back? Tang Zheng did not understand the other's intentions, but since they were so confident, he might as well get some information out of them. The two ghost commanders clearly relaxed their vigilance and proudly said, There's no harm in telling you now. Many people in the human world suddenly have 10 more years of life. Of course, we have to investigate thoroughly. In the end, we found that the source was actually that old man, so we speculated that this matter was definitely related to him. We're really too smart, guessing right? I'm afraid the culprit behind all this is you, right? Tang Zheng's eyelids jumped, and he finally understood what was going on. The problem was with the life-continuing pill. Although Tang Zheng did not know much about the ghost realm, from Tian Chanzi's words, he roughly understood that the ghost realm was another world that specialized in managing ghosts after death. As for the specific situation of the ghost realm, Tian Chanzi was not clear about it, because he also knew little about this strange world. Most of what he knew was from the seniors in the sect. When the ghost realm discovered that many people had suddenly gained 10 years of lifespan, they would definitely investigate and intervene. Tang Dehai, the first person who had his lifespan extended, became the primary target of investigation. Tang Zheng couldn't help but feel a little regretful. The ghost realm was only investigating this matter now because there was a sudden increase in the number of people who had their lifespans extended recently. Otherwise, they would have come to investigate long ago. This was definitely related to him auctioning off the life-continuing pills. Some of those life-continuing pills must have already been consumed by others and had the effect of prolonging their lifespan. The ghost realm had discovered that there was an increase in the number of life-prolonging pills, so they started to investigate. If Tang Zheng did not sell this batch of life-prolonging pills, the ghost realm would not have paid so much attention to this matter. Although the life-continuing pill is a good thing, it seems that it also has side effects. Attracting the ghost realm's investigation or pursuit for money is not a good thing. In the future, I can't wantonly refine the life-continuing pills. That would cause complete chaos and also bring me unnecessary trouble. Tang Zheng silently made up his mind. Seeing that Tang Zheng was silent, the two ghost commanders sneered, Looking at your reaction, this matter was definitely done by you. We are very curious as to how you did it. Tang Zheng coldly snorted and said, It's none of your business. This is related to the survival of the ghost realm. How can we not care? The ghost commander angrily roared. The survival of the ghost realm? You should have heard of reincarnation, right? Tang Zheng nodded. This was Hua Xia's oldest legend, but many people were skeptical because it was too mysterious. It seems that this was not an illusion, but a real thing. Hee, foolish human, it seems that you do not know the details. That's fine, The yin qi will still take some time, so we will tell you. After all, you will know after you die. The ghost commander proudly said. Tang Jing felt that there was nothing wrong with his body. Only then did he suppress the fear in his heart and listen to the other party show off. If he missed this opportunity, it would not be easy to hear these secrets again. The ghost realm is the same as the human realm. It is just another world with a different set of operating laws. When a person's life is up, they will die and their soul will leave their body and enter the ghost realm. After a period of time, these souls will be reincarnated and enter the human realm to become a human again. Do you understand? Tang Jing suddenly understood, but he was still full of doubt and asked, You are saying that anyone can be reincarnated after they die? Anyone? How, what a joke, of course not. Do you think that everyone is so lucky? For example, people like you who disturb the order will be thrown into the 18 layers of hell after they die. They will suffer torment and pain until their soul is scattered, completely disappearing from this world. As for others, as long as they perform well in the ghost realm, they will naturally have a chance to be reincarnated as a human. Otherwise, they will be muddle-headed and enslaved in the ghost realm for the rest of their lives. When Tang Jing heard this, he was furious. After he died, he had to suffer the pain of the 18 layers of hell. Who set this rule? If an ordinary person heard this, they would have been scared to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy. But Tang Jing was different. As his strength grew stronger, he became more and more confident in himself. Only the pair of fists in his hands was the absolute truth. Only then could he defend his rights and dignity. Then who decides whether a person is enslaved or reincarnated? Of course it is the king of hell. If you are chosen by the king of hell, then you can naturally be reincarnated earlier, or enjoy glory and wealth in the ghost realm. Tang Jing felt a chill run down his spine. The ghost realm was just like the human realm, full of all kinds of ugliness. It turned out that everything was based on relationships. In an instant, he no longer had a good impression of the ghost realm, nor did he have the slightest respect or fear for them. I don't know what method you used, but it can actually increase a person's lifespan. If more and more people don't die, then the ghost realm will have no source of ghosts, and ghosts will have to be reincarnated at every moment. There will only be output, but no input. In the end, there will be no ghosts in the ghost realm. Wouldn't that be chaos? But now that we have caught you, the main culprit, there will be no more troubles in the future. There will be an endless stream of ghosts entering the ghost realm. We can be carefree again. And why aren't you dead yet? A ghost marshal suddenly stared at Tang Jing and asked suspiciously. That's right, the yin qi should have already invaded his body. How can he still be standing there unscathed? Another ghost marshal exclaimed in disbelief. Tang Jing's body was warm, and he did not feel any discomfort. He gradually understood that perhaps ordinary people would definitely be killed by the yin qi in the ghost realm, but to him, his pure yang energy had completely offset the yin qi, and the yin qi had no way of entering his body, causing the ghost marshal's plan to fail. Tang Jing sneered. He looked at the other party with ill intentions and said, I already know the information I want, now it's your turn to die. I'm very curious if you can reincarnate after you die. Ghost marshal's expression changed greatly. Although they were strong, they were still ghosts in essence. Once they were killed, their souls would scatter and they would completely disappear from this world. They would not have the chance to reincarnate. From the other party's reaction, Tang Jing had also guessed the answer and his killing intent soared. These two people already knew his identity, so they definitely could not let the tiger return to the mountain. Tang Jing roared and summoned the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow. In the ghost realm, he did not have to worry about the problem of destructive power. The stronger the external force, the sooner he could take care of them. Tang Jing pulled open the bow and arrow, and the expressions of the two ghost marshal changed, because they could already feel a powerful aura from the bow and arrow. Let's go all out. Ghost marshal looked at each other and roared. With a wave of his hands, two bells appeared in their hands. The bell was silent, but every time it shook, the cold wind between heaven and earth would become even stronger. Waves of ghost cries came from all directions, causing people to shudder. Previously, I was unable to unleash the full power of the soul-summoning bell in the mortal world. Now, I'll let you try it." The ghost commander roared out. The more the bell rang, the more anxious it became, causing sand and stones to fly. A gust of cold wind turned into a tornado, swirling towards Tang Jing, and within the tornado, there were countless ferocious-looking ghost heads, all of them fiercely baring their teeth at Tang Jing, as if they wanted to tear him to pieces. Tang Jing was like still water. The heaven-shocking bow was pulled into a full moon, and seeing the tornado blowing over, he slowly released his fingers. With a strong vibration sound, the sun-shooting arrow left the bowstring and turned into a ray of light, accurately shooting into the tornado. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions sounded out one after another. The ghost head screamed miserably and exploded, turning into strands of yin qi. The tornado also stopped abruptly and disappeared into thin air. Bang! The soul-summoning bell in the hands of one of the ghost marshals shattered into pieces with a clang, scattering all over the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backwards. How could he be so powerful? Just who are you? The ghost marshal screamed in shock. The other one had blood at the corner of his mouth and looked like he was on the verge of collapsing. He screamed, "Run!" He turned around and ran. Obviously, this one was much smarter. He knew that the only reason he was able to fight to a draw with the other party was because the other party did not take out this great killing weapon. Now that they were far from being a match for the other party, if they did not escape, they would be waiting to be killed. The other one also seemed to have woken up from a dream and turned to run. Tang Jing's reaction was even faster than theirs. He leaped and passed by the ghost marshal behind him. While he was still in the air, he pulled open the heaven-shocking bow and shot out the sun-shooting arrow, straight towards the ghost marshal in the distance. Boom! The sun-shooting arrow accurately pierced into the opponent's body and exploded. A miserable scream came to an abrupt end as the ghost marshal turned into black smoke and dissipated into the air. Tang Jing landed steadily on the ground and turned to face the ghost marshal who was rushing forward. The other party anxiously stopped and looked at Tang Jing in fear and uneasiness, shouting, "If you kill me, you will cause a huge mess. If you go against the ghost realm, you will definitely die." The corner of Tang Jing's mouth curled up into a cold smile, and said, "Killing one is also killing a pair is also killing. Furthermore, you are not the first person from the ghost realm to die in my hands. I know. The ghost messengers and ghost generals that disappeared back then were also killed by you?" The ghost marshal seemed to have awoken from a dream, but he was extremely shocked. "Since you know, then prepare to die." Chapter 540. Seeing the other party crush the ghost tablet, Tang Jing did not have time to stop him. His face sank as he asked, "Without this ghost tablet, you want to trap me in the ghost realm? Consider yourself smart. Even if I can't kill you, I will trap you so that you will never be able to reincarnate." The ghost commander gritted his teeth and said. Tang Jing did not think much of it and said, "Is that so? I'm afraid you've miscalculated. Look at what this is." Tang Jing took out a black token. If this was not the ghost tablet, then what was it? When he killed the ghost messengers and ghost general, he naturally obtained this ghost tablet. He knew that the ghost tablet could summon the ghost gate and connect the two worlds. Seeing the ghost tablet, the ghost messenger's expression changed greatly as he exclaimed, "How do you have the ghost tablet?" Just as he finished asking, he suddenly realized, "I know, you killed them, so you obtained the ghost tablet." The corner of Tang Jing's mouth rose as he said, "Now you can give up. You want to trap me in the ghost realm? Wishful thinking." The ghost commander retreated step by step, his face filled with panic. He suddenly knelt in front of him and cried bitterly as he begged for mercy, "I beg you, let me go. I won't say anything." It's too late. Tang Jing slipped and appeared in front of the ghost commander. The other party was already scared out of his wits and subconsciously wanted to resist, but Tang Jing had already grabbed his neck. Bang! Go to hell! True fire emerged from Tang Jing's palm, instantly igniting the ghost commander. The ghost commander screamed, but was unable to break free from Tang Zheng's grasp. His screams weakened bit by bit. Bang! With an explosion, he turned into wisps of yin qi and scattered with the wind. Tang Zheng clapped his hands. After confirming that he did not leave behind any clues, he looked up. The sky was still dark, like the scene before a storm. From time to time, a cold wind would blow by, cold and awe-inspiring. What entered his eyes was a desolate area without any buildings. Even the ground was dark, as if it had been burned by fire. This is the ghost realm. It is indeed very different from the human world. The King of Hell has set his eyes on the matter of extending his lifespan, and the ghost marshal he sent this time failed miserably. I wonder if he will send someone even more powerful. Tang Zheng furrowed his brows. This problem really troubled him. Forget it. Let's go home and see how Grandpa is doing. He remembered that Grandpa had been in a coma. He didn't know how he was doing now. His true chi flowed into the ghost token. With a flash of black light, a ghost gate appeared in front of him. He leaped into the ghost gate. In the next second, he appeared in his grandfather's room only to see Ling staring at the air with her head tilted to one side. It seemed that with her understanding, it was very difficult for her to understand such a sudden disappearance, but she had been waiting foolishly because she believed that her master would definitely return safely. When she saw Tang Zheng's figure reappear, she immediately cheered and jumped directly onto Tang Zheng's body. Like a sloth, she tightly hugged him, afraid that he would disappear again in a blink of an eye. Master, Ling thought that you had abandoned me. You finally came back. Ling is so happy. Ling said pitifully. Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. He touched her head and asked, "Where is grandfather?" Grandfather is lying on the sofa. I let Xiao Bai and Gui Qiansui look after him. Ling said. Tang Zheng strode into the living room. He saw his grandfather's eyes were closed, as if he was sleeping soundly. Xiao Bai and Gui Qiansui quietly guarded him. Seeing Tang Zheng return, Xiao Bai rolled his eyes and drooped his head. It seemed that he had expected him to be safe and sound. Gui Qiansui was pleasantly surprised. Immortal? Tang Zheng nodded. He held his grandfather's hand. A trace of Zhen Qi wandered inside his grandfather's body. He checked and found that there was no major problem. He heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, if he had appeared a little later, the old man's soul would have been taken away from his body. Even if it was returned, it would cause great harm to his body. Fortunately, the soul did not completely leave the body. Tang Zheng stopped it, so the old man luckily escaped. However, the old man's body was still invaded by a bit of yin qi, so he was unconscious. But it was all dispersed by Tang Zheng's Zhen Qi. The old man would not wake up for the time being. Tang Zheng did not intend to tell him about last night's big matter. He did not want him to worry in vain. So he told Ling and Gui Qiansui not to reveal half a word to their grandfather. Then he took advantage of the night to buy furniture. Because the old man's room had become a mess, almost all the furniture was destroyed. Of course, Tang Zheng could only buy new furniture. Fortunately, he had Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix, the two former local tyrants. Even in the middle of the night, they could gather a lot of furniture. When the sky turned white, he had already renovated the old man's bedroom. At this time, the old man faintly opened his eyes and looked around curiously. He thought he was dreaming. This was not his room at all. Seeing his grandson in front of him, he knew that all this was real. Of course, he could not help but ask. Tang Zheng had already thought of a countermeasure. He directly said that he was filial to him. He specially took advantage of the old man's sleep to change his clothes. He wanted to give him a surprise. Fortunately, the old man gradually got used to Tang Zheng's unusual behavior. Although he was distressed and complained about spending money, he did not say anything more. Only then did Tang Zheng let out a sigh of relief and quietly got busy. Today was the most important day of the year, New Year's Eve. Therefore, Tang Zheng did not bat an eyelid, as if nothing had happened last night. He started to get busy early in the morning. But before she could get busy for a while, Lan Yu came to visit. She had fought hard for the opportunity to participate in this group year from the old man, so of course she had to perform well. However, she was not the only one who rushed over early. Mu Hongyan brought Nana over very quickly. The house immediately became lively and happy. New Year's Eve was an important day for the people of Huaxia. Not only the ordinary people, but also the officials and even some mysterious organizations were jubilant on this day. Looking at the red lanterns hanging everywhere, Wu smiled from the bottom of his heart. After returning to the martial sect alone, the sect master asked her where Mistress had gone. According to Mistress's instructions, she perfunctorily passed over. Regarding this, she felt extremely guilty. Since she was young, she had never hidden anything from the sect master. This time, she had no choice but to make an exception. This was because Mistress had warned her with certainty and seriousness that if the news of her looking for Tang Zheng were to spread, it was very likely that there would be a huge mess. Wu did not suspect that this was Mistress's alarmist words, because she did not doubt Mistress's judgment at all. Looking at the sky outside the high wall, her thoughts could not help but drift away. Mistress was alone in the ordinary balance. How was it? How was he getting along with the despicable Tang Zheng? Yes, she now defined Tang Zheng as a despicable fellow. This guy didn't know what was good for him. He actually treated Mistress so cruelly. She couldn't help but want to rush up and beat him up. Of course, in the dead of night, another thought would appear in her mind. She had done that kind of thing with that guy. If he were to return to the martial sect in the future and reunite with the sect leader's family, how would she get along with him? Back then, the sect master had said that he would adopt her for that day. That time, according to the sect master's orders, she gave herself to Tang Zheng. Could it be that the sect master already knew that Tang Zheng would explode one day? How could he foresee the future? Moreover, since the sect master knew that Tang Zheng was still alive, why didn't he look for him before? With the strength of the martial sect, even if it was like looking for a needle in a haystack, looking for a child in a busy crowd was not impossible. Why didn't the sect master take action? In addition, no one else knew that Tang Zheng was still alive. Why didn't he even tell his wife? Wasn't that too cruel? She calmed down and thought about it one by one. She found that there were many suspicious points. The sect master and mistress that she was very close to had too many secrets that she was unable to understand. Even the entire martial sect was covered with a layer of mystery. Even she, who grew up in the martial sect, was unable to see through it. Unknowingly, her delicate eyebrows were tightly knitted together. She retracted her gaze from the distant horizon. The people of the martial sect were constantly busy preparing for the New Year's Eve banquet. The martial sect also had to celebrate the new year. During the martial sect's childhood, for 365 days, other than the New Year's Eve, they had to practice hard on the rest of the days. Therefore, whenever the new year was approaching, she would silently hope that the day would come quickly so that she could play without any worries. Now that she had grown up, this feeling was getting fainter and fainter. Everything had turned into a meeting. But when she thought about it carefully, she felt that those days were exceptionally beautiful. Suddenly, her gaze turned cold as it locked onto two people who walked in from the door. One was the great elder, the other was an old granny. Ever since the great elder returned from the 10,000 huge mountains with injuries, he had been living in seclusion and had become somewhat mysterious. Even martial sect rarely saw him. Why did she bring an old granny to the martial sect this time? One had to know that the martial sect was not an ordinary place. Ordinary people would not be able to find it, let alone step through the door of the martial sect. That was simply a fool's dream. And this old granny was led by the great elder, so she was definitely not an ordinary person. She looked at the other party with a burning gaze, hoping to see some clues. However, she found that her efforts were useless. Suddenly, the old granny turned her head and looked at Wu Liao. When their eyes met, Wu Liao felt as if he had been struck by a giant bell. His face turned pale and he staggered back a few steps. The martial general's soul was still unsettled, but he hurriedly looked over, only to find that the other party had already shifted his gaze away, no longer looking at her. But that feeling just now was like a demon that lingered in her heart for a long time, unable to get rid of it. What kind of gaze was that? She was unable to describe it. She only knew that the gaze was extremely deep. Looking at it made her feel as if her entire body was about to be sucked in, unable to extricate herself. At the critical moment, she hurriedly circulated her energy and stabilized her mind. Only then did she withdraw from that dangerous state. However, she could not help but take a few steps back, her face pale. If a single gaze could cause such a huge impact on Marshall, then how powerful was the other party? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.